Hello and welcome to episode 275 of the Random Nintendo Podcast. I'm Jason.
I'm Angel.
I am Kevin. You sounded much louder than you did when we were talking beforehand. Did you just lean into the microphone?
Just excited.
Yeah, I was slouching on the chair before. Now I'm sitting.
That was with more
normally.
gusto. That had a lot more gusto than our pre-show chat, where you were just kind of you sounded like you were slouching. So glad you got that gusto.
You
And I don't know if anyone
like you
noticed.
wanted to be here.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we are here and we're here late. This episode is late, and it's Pokemon's fault. We were set to do a show with a big focus on sports games, right down to a title of Sports Tryouts because of the online test for Switch Sports and MLB The Show 22. Plus, thoughts on the genre as a whole. We're bringing back the genre series. And then we're going to pair that nicely with the closure of the 3DS and Wii U eShops and our recommendations for some of the hidden gems worth downloading while you still can. But the problem is, early Sunday morning, that's the time we like to upload. And that time slot, so to speak, was commandeered by the Pokemon Company for Pokemon Day. And with it came a Pokemon Presents that made some big news with Gen 9's reveal, Scarlet and Violet. And we can't not talk about that. So for the second episode in a row, after Random Nintendo last time, we are starting with breaking news-ish. We're a day late, but breaking news, let's say. We will get to everything we had planned. After all, you may have noticed we kept the title.
It's better
of
that it's
Sports
late.
Trial,
Otherwise, you wouldn't be getting this 2 weeks from now. Would be
exactly. And by then,
relevant.
are you even going to care about Gen 9 2 weeks from now, let alone in November when it probably comes out? Who knows? But you care now because it's very fresh. But we will get to all that other stuff too. All the topics are on the blog post or upsetramtown.com. So, those are still coming down the pipe. But right off the bat here, we're talking Pocket Monsters. We're talking Scarlet and Violet. And specifically, I would like to touch on Quaxley. Angel, you are a Donald Duck fan. Is this guy the Donald Duck of Pokemon? He kind of looks like the Donald Duck of Pokemon. Or maybe he's a Dewey. But did you get that vibe whatsoever as a Donald Duck fanatic? Or am I crazy?
I mean, I could see how people could see that. But no, he just looks like a
duck?
Just a generic duck with a wig.
So how do you pronounce his name? Is that been confirmed or are you just guessing?
I assume it's Quaxley. Or like Quack and then...
Yeah, Quaxley.
Oh, well, duh, the Quack. I was trying to think, because Fuecoco and, what's the other one?
Sprigatito?
Sprigatito, yeah, there's an obvious theme between those two, but Quaxley is just...
yeah.
Not...
and that theme...
There's no Spanish in there compared to the other two.
And that theme permeates everywhere. It looks like the game's set in a Spanish peninsula, like Spain, Portugal situation. Ibiza. But yeah, I don't know where Quaxley fits into any of that. But for those who did miss the announcement, to back this up for a sec, which actually, it wouldn't be surprising if you missed it, because the Pokemon Company has confirmed they minimized promoting this thing heavily, understandably, because they were trying to not be like, look at all the Pokemans during the crisis in Ukraine, so they didn't promote it as heavy as they normally do. But if you missed it, Quaxley is the new water starter that the Pokemon Company describes as, and this is real, earnest and tidy, whatever that means, and he's joined by Fuecoco, which I think is probably the best name of the three, who is this little fire dinosaur hippo guy, and he's joined by Sprigatito, is that how you say it?
Sprigatito.
Who's a grass type cat that the internet immediately started associating with weed.
Hell
so,
yeah.
Make of that what you will. But honestly, his design to me looks almost like a fan-made Pokemon compared to some other stars we've seen in the past. I don't know what it is about Sprigatito, but yeah, something about his look or her look. I don't know. It looks a little not like a real Pokemon. And this is coming from someone who, has 3 cats, thought Litten was a great starter a few gens back, but yeah. Do you guys have a favorite, an early front runner among the 3?
Not really.
Okay.
Oh, go for it.
No. I am a huge Quaxley fan, with the exception of that name.
Yeah, I think his look is better than his name for sure. If they could take the cleverness of Fuecoco and make it a duck, I'm in.
I saw somebody somebody named it. They should have gone with Pompaduck because he's got that mean pompadour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been good. There's people speculating that his final form is going to be some sort of riff on because some are saying the hair is actually like a Christopher Columbus hat because he's from Spain, and they might have him kind of go through different figures of of old Spanish history. So someone's saying he might have a pun of Don Quixote as his final form, like Quack Quixote or something like that, or Don Quixote, or I don't know.
They could have called him Pampa Pato. There we go. There's your pato is Spanish for duck.
Wow, that's a really missed opportunity in that case.
Yeah.
Like, that rolls right. That's so much better. Like, I like Quaxley because it sounds funny, but it's not a good name. but I do like his design.
It's no Poplio. Poplio's a great name.
Yeah. But Angel, you were saying you didn't have a particular standout one at this point?
Yeah. And honestly, it might have something to do with the fact that I didn't get Arceus, didn't get Sword or Shield. Right. Yeah, like, and even Diamond and Pearl, like, I thought I'd play more of it by now, but I haven't really touched it. And that's kind of ignoring the fact that progress has been really slow because of the whole playing in Japanese kind of thing. I don't know.
Oh, right, you're doing that.
Yeah, it's almost like the designs look interesting enough, but nothing made me go like, oh, this one's cool, or like, oh man, like, I can't wait to play as this one. Like, even the review for the game, which I know we'll get into it later, but I think it's just, I don't know, maybe a switch hit in my head where now suddenly I'm not excited about new Pokemon. I don't know. Maybe there'll be some new chat talk. Maybe the right design just wasn't there for me. Maybe I'm going to guess that's it. Maybe like none of the 3 starters just hit that mark. I don't think any from Sword and Shield did either. Sun and Moon, I think Rowlet kind of did it for me, but...
Well, Rowlet has an adorable bow tie, so easy win.
Yeah.
That little leaf bow tie, wonderful. It's as good as Quaxley's little pompadour hat, depending on how you look at it. So, yeah. Every third Pokemon generation, they give one of the Pokemon a weird, organically grown, attached to their body fashion accessory, it seems. So... Not to kill your momentum there with what you're saying or anything, but you did make a good point that like we are gonna probably get into the announcement. So maybe we step back for a second, actually like touch on what actually happened in the Pokemon Presents. After updates on basically every event occurring in every active Pokemon game on the market, the presentation concluded with this teaser trailer for the next proper generation of Pokemon, Gen 9, Scarlet and Violet. It will be out in late 2022. Which, as we all know, I think, will likely translate to specifically the third Friday in November. That's how it's been the last few years. I can't imagine it changing. I'm calling it. Yeah, I'll put money down on that.
You'll put money on it.
I'll put money down on that. How much will I bet, Kevin?
The game. The full cost of the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know that means that if you're right, that you're getting a free game, right?
I know. There was one time they did it the second weekend of November because they had a different major release the third weekend.
You better pick a date.
I'm weighing in my head, is Breath of the Wild 2 going to be delayed? Because that would be the one that would bump it from that third weekend.
It's now or never.
Because they did Omega, they did Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire the second weekend, like the 14th of November. And then the next weekend, the 20th or so, is the big... You know what? Screw it. Only live once, right? All right. Handshakes through the microphone.
Okay, yeah.
It's
perfect.
It's a deal.
I will take Scarlet.
I will. I haven't decided which one I'll take yet, but I have plenty of time to be proven right, and then I'll make my choice. But yeah, so that's all normal, like how the Pokemon thing happened. But where things maybe weren't as normal is the actual substance of the announcement. I mean, the way they announced it's the same, but there's kind of 2 parts to it here. There's the what and there's the when, I feel like. So first up, the what, which is, the actual content of the game beyond just the starters. And the Pokemon Company is saying it's going to be an open-world adventure. They describe it as the next evolutionary step for the franchise, which translates to no borders between towns or environments and wild Pokemon appearing wherever. In other words, it sounds like the outcome we were speculating about last episode when discussing Legends. Take the open world established there, marry it with the traditional RPG mechanics of like the core games, and voila, best of both worlds, at least theoretically. It sounds like, Angel, that's not something you're necessarily feeling, but how about you, Kevin? Because you came from Sword and Shield, and then you didn't get Legends, but does this seem like kind of the next step of where you may want to see like the wild area go?
Yeah, I would say so. This definitely looks a little bit more expansive than Sword and Shield, and I think we literally talked about this on this last episode, what I would want from another Pokemon game, and like
Yeah.
Arceus just didn't cut it for me because I mean, yeah, it was expansive, but it's not the sort of expansiveness that I want. This does look expansive while also being a little reined in, and like I said, it's set in like modern times, obviously, so that's a huge draw for me. Yeah, this looks much closer to what I sort of expected out of Arceus for sure.
Right. And Angel, you were on the fence. I feel like last episode you were saying, if I remember correctly, that like you're more into it. Into, obviously, Pokemon Foot Battle, which is a battle simulator, but maybe there's something in Legends, in the catching, that if you like sort of separate yourself from what Pokemon means to you, there could be something. Are you basically, do you just not care about Legends anymore now that this is kind of stepping into that same spot and then some?
I don't know,
Like, did this
because
just wipe out any sense of
to
interest?
kind of go back to what I was saying a little while ago, like I just feel like I don't really have I don't really want to play another Pokemon game that is. I feel like I'm not gonna go into the whole EV training anymore. Like I don't know if I want to go back into competitive Pokemon battling. Like I think that ship has sailed. Like I think it's time to let that be. So it just like doesn't. So that isn't a draw for me anymore. Like it's kind of come down to, like, yeah, if I want to do competitive Pokemon battling, I'll just go play Pokemon Showdown online. Like there it is instantly. It's always going to be updated. Right. I could always play people online. Sure, I won't have the visual flair that I want, but it's exactly what I want. So at that point,
to be fair,
yeah, that's fine.
To be fair with that visual flair, and I know we barely talked about it, based on that trailer, the game does not look great. And this is something that I think Arceus, a lot of people are sort of forgiving it because it's like this new idea that, you know, Game Freak is trying. These games make millions, if not billions of dollars. You can definitely tighten up the graphics on level 6, you know? Like,
yeah, it's interesting because I felt the same way watching the trailer, and then I kind of went back and played Arceus a bit and looked at some Sword and Shield footage, and believe it or not, this is a big improvement. Like, I know it sounds silly, but if you compare like some of the city designs and landscapes shown in Scarlet and Violet's trailer to how like Legends mostly looks, or like literally just the emptiness of the wild area in Sword and Shield, like it's noticeably better, especially when it comes to like the vistas and how like deep they go into the distance, for lack of a better phrase for describing that. But it still has a ways it can go, but it definitely like it's the best they've done so far. Take that as you will, but it's definitely moving in a direction.
But we know that they can do better. They have the cash for it. Let's not beat around the bush. They absolutely have the cash for it. I don't know exactly what it is that's holding them back, but like I said, the graphics can absolutely be better. I don't think it's a limitation. You know what? Maybe it is a limitation of the engine that they use, but I mean, they have the money to create a new engine.
Someone pointed out on Twitter that if you look at the shot with the 3 windmill, like the 3 wind turbines, each turbine is spinning at a different frame rate. So,
okay,
yeah, there's some weird choices they're making.
Yeah,
but I would say, graphics aside, like this is kind of exactly what I wanted to see them do, or like maybe like 98% of what I wanted them to do. Like in that 98% is, you know, the world building exploration I was just gushing about Legends in, you know, 2 weeks ago, you guys. Like it's presumably making the full leap here for regular, you know, into a regular Pokemon game, which is kind of like what you're saying. And like the fact that things do look more embellished, like the graphics are a step better, does give me hope that everything's a step further. Like, you know, the first pass was Legends, now they kind of honed in on what works and what doesn't. But I have this slight inkling, like the reason I say I'm like 98%, this is what I was, because there's this little 2% part that like I kind of like the streamlined stuff in Legends. Like I like being able to just sneak up and throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon, and, you know, not needing to necessarily go to a town to find a Pokemon Center or whatever. And it's obviously too early to say if those mechanics will be dropped. I mean, I noticed in the trailer there's this gas station at one point that maybe is a healing spot, seems like a healing spot. But it does seem like if anything were to get cut for them to kind of bridge the two types of Pokemon game now, those are the ones on the chopping block. I'm hoping I'm wrong. and there's signs pointing, other aspects still making the cut. Like, honestly, the weird generic-looking main characters you play as, who also look abnormally young. I don't know why they look so young, but they seem really primed for, like, character customization on a scale that we saw in Legends. So if it all pans out, it hopefully really is basically Legends 2, more doing the world, more variety, a little better looking, and yet still has the stuff that made me really like Legends. But it is kind of early to tell. We only saw 2 minutes of it, essentially. Not even. Half of it was live action. We saw like 90 seconds.
Yeah, I was about to say, wasn't half of it the security guard?
Yeah. Which, by the way, I kind of appreciate that they did like that silly cinematic thing, because in the past they would just pan piles of character art. Remember that? Like they just pan like concept sketches. So this was it had a little more pizzazz to it, which was kind of nice.
It was a nice short for sure.
Yeah. And the fact that they I don't think that was actually the Game Freak office, obviously, but the fact that they tried, kind of tied it into the real world of like, yeah, we're Game Freak, we make these games, was kind of nice. But yeah, the Legends 2 thing, I kind of want to touch on it for a sec, because the idea of a Legends 2 or any integration with Legends at any level, that does lead to the second part of the announcement, because I was saying that, there's the what, which is the game, and then there's the when. And say what you will about the game, but its timing is it's something. I mean, it wasn't even a full 30 days since Legends launch. Only 3 months since Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl that we're now getting a third full Pokemon RPG announced. Like, with all said and done, by the time Scarlet and Violet are out and available, there will be 5 SKUs of 3 different full-fledged Pokemon RPGs within 12 months. Which just feels like a lot, doesn't it?
Does feel a little fast.
Right? Like, and the funny thing is, like, in terms of the core...
I mean, I guess it makes sense why Shining Diamond and the Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl were outsourced.
Yeah, seriously. It's and it's funny because, like, if you actually break it down, nothing here is abnormal. Like, the core game release cycle that they do for Pokemon, like, this is right on track, even though it does feel like there's so much going on. Because, for the last few generations, I went back and looked at releases, and we get a core game, a core generation every 3 years these days. Then comes the third version the following year, followed by a remake of an earlier gen the next year, and then, surprise, the cycle begins anew. And on some level, we do have that here. Like, Sword and Shield, believe it or not, was in 2019. It was already 3 years ago. The DLC expansions were obviously instead of the third version. That was in 2020. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl 2021. Meanwhile, just like they always have done with the normal core games, Pokemon Company had Sword and Shield remain the one true, like, competitive entry. All these, the de facto game if you want to do competitive play. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl weren't that. Legends wasn't that. Let's Go wasn't that. So again, like, we are on track to a degree with Scarlet and Violet sort of usurping Sword and Shield in the, like, grander Pokemon lineage at a normal rate that doesn't feel like too crammed. But Legends just threw it all off. Like, I don't know, because on the one hand, it's a unique take on Pokemon that you could argue is a spin-off in maybe the same way that Pokemon Rangers or something like Colosseum or XD or Battle Revolution were. And those games all ignored the same release pattern, and they did just fine. But Pokemon Company in Japan has been calling Legends a core entry. And the gameplay is closer to the core games than any spin-off prior, most, that I could think of. And now, as we're, as we were just discussing, like, the stuff that did feel unique to Legends and could maybe justify it being its own thing that could release in tandem with a core game, well, that's now being folded back into the core games, into Scarlet and Violet, at least to some degree. And never mind timing-wise, if you're a big Pokemon fan who buys and plays through the RPGs, so if you're basically the opposite of what you are, Angel, where you just kind of aren't really touching them anymore, in 60 days' time, you already got 2 really, like, hefty, big, meaty adventures. You're very likely still working through them. And now in basically 9 months, you're getting a third? Like, it just feels, I don't know, feels like a lot to undertake.
Spoiled. That's what that sounds like.
We are, in a way, but there's so many other games coming out this year that I'm just kind of like, why are they not pumping the brakes a little? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still gonna buy Scarlet and Violet, and probably.
Well, then they clearly know what they're doing. Then, otherwise, you would say,
"Yeah, no, they do."
You know what? I'm actually gonna skip it because this is just too much. Got to speak with my wallet.
Actually, no, I'm not gonna buy it. Kevin's gonna buy it for me because of that.
Oh, there you go.
So,
good point.
Okay,
yeah.
dude. Okay, I can't wait. I can't wait.
But, and I'm sure, regardless of our bet and which one of us buys it for the other, I'm sure many, many people are also going to buy it. Like, the franchise is legitimately, I would suspect, going to have 3 separate 10 million plus sellers in a single year with this, which is crazy. But, like, you're going to look at the Switch, like, top 10 best sellers of all time, and, like, half of it is going to be Pokemon because there's, like, these 3 releases, there's Sword and Shield, there's Let's Go, they're all doing great. So, like, sure. But the thing I just can't shake is that we're now seeing Pokemon games release at a pace faster than Call of Duty, a series that has 2 releases per year, if you count Warzone, in the same time frame that Pokemon is now doing 3 releases. And literally just last week, these reports came out that Activision is actually going to skip a proper Call of Duty in 2023 because sales are declining and they're worried about franchise fatigue. Meanwhile, Pokemon is now
they're worried?
Speeding up. Yeah, now they're worried apparently. But yeah, meanwhile Pokemon's just like pedal to the metal, and I just don't want Pokemon to fall into the same trap, Like I kind of said last episode, I'm excited for the series' potential after Legends and what can mean going forward, and everything about Scarlet and Violet conceptually, is hitting the nail on the head, but Game Freak spent 20 years barely inching the franchise forward and it still did well. Like, I don't know why they suddenly feel the need to sort of speed run through changes. Like, you two don't buy every single Pokemon game, right? Like, you're skipping generations. Like, who are they? Like, I don't understand what the rush is. I don't know. And it leads to exactly the graphics thing you were talking about, Kevin, I feel like. Because, like, what potentially kind of sucks here is that it comes at the cost of the current games, right? Like, obviously there's no broken Pokemon game, but they're not being polished to the same extent they're cranking them out this fast. Like, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl had a lot of glitches at launch they had to patch. Legends has some graphical issues, not just like the look, but like clipping and stuff. And even beyond that, like, if they're cranking out these meaty core games so frequently, where do they put other spin-off experiences like Detective Pikachu 2? Like, I thought it was kind of interesting that in the the Pokemon Presents, yet again, we had a presentation where they didn't touch any game they previously announced that still isn't out. We don't know anything about Detective Pikachu. We don't know anything about, like, Pokemon Sleep or whatever. It's just, core game.
I don't think we're ever going to see Pokemon Sleep, by the way.
I don't think we are either. I think it got ridiculed into its grave. But Detective Pikachu 2, that could have been fun. And, like, I don't know. It's just weird that, like, we have this, like, much faster drumbeat now. And likewise, even among the games that are out and supported, if they're rushing to the next release, doesn't that mean cutting the current one off prematurely, or at least potentially prematurely? Like, I don't think Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were ever going to get anything at a larger scale than that, like, Shaman mystery gift announced during the Presents. But does a jump to Scarlet and Violet so soon mean that maybe Legends won't get to see much in terms of DLC? Like, I think it was really cool they did a shadow drop of this free Daybreak update during the Presents. It adds you stuff like mass Pokemon outbreaks and more trainer battles, and, if you're looking for content after being the main game, here's a bunch of free things you can do. But if resources are now quickly turning towards the next core games that share so much of Legends gameplay, does that mean the ideas that players like myself really like in Legends that don't make the jump to, Scarlet and Violet, does that mean they're just kind of dead? Like, there's no deeper exploration of those? There's no deeper story expansions of Legends? It's just kind of like, yeah, we're washing our hands of that 9 months later? Like, I don't know. Like, it's a lot of hypotheticals. And I'm just thinking, like, we talked last episode about how Legends sold, what was it, 6.5 million in a week, and we know the DLC for Sword and Shield helped it become the second best-selling Pokemon of all time with, like, 23 million copies. And it just feels like if they're releasing Scarlet and Violet so quickly, they're squandering that potential audience growth and that potential opportunity to do cool things within those worlds they already built.
I think they'll be fine. These games sell pretty well. If you
they sell well, but no, you don't say. But yeah, obviously this is all purely speculative, and it's too early to necessarily say which way it's going to go. And like, to be fair, to kind of be my own foil for a sec, like, Sword and Shield still gets new wild area updates to this day, but it also is the game that remains the competitive scene's, like, core. So I don't know.
So are you saying you're opposed to Pokemon not making a game that isn't a standalone, self-contained thing that isn't going to get constantly updated for years?
No, wait, what? No, wait, I think I only half followed what you said. I'm saying I don't know why Scarlet and Violet couldn't just be a 2023 release. Like, I'm excited for what it has to offer based on what we've seen so far. And even the name itself is kind of intriguing. Like, is that, like, that's the first color thing they've done since Black and White, like, a decade ago? Like, is there a sciencey thing there? Like,
Black and White was
light
a decade ago?
Light? Yeah, 2006.
Oh, my God. Where has the time
So 8
gone?
years. Or, wait, not a decade. No, wait, longer than a decade. Math.
Oh, my God. I remember when that game released. Jesus Christ, dude. I feel like every other episode, I'm reminded of how old I am.
Yeah, because we do a lot of looking back, so just wait till we get to the eShop closure later, and all the games that we're going to talk about are like, oh, I remember playing that like a week ago, but it was actually a decade ago. But yeah, like, this is the first, in terms of Black and White, this is the first one to use color again. I'm kind of curious if, it's like a science thing with ultra red light and violet light, and I don't know. But my point is, I would be just as curious and just as happy to experience this in 2023 as I am in 2022, because I'm still playing Legends, and I still want to see what Legends can offer. But it seems like they're kind of just cutting that off prematurely. So that's my only point. I do think Scarlet and Violet look pretty cool, though. But there's a lot of like weirdness that comes with them pumping these out faster than any other franchise in gaming at the moment. So that's my spiel.
It was a good spiel.
Any other? Thanks. I worked on it. But was there anything else you guys want to touch on with Pokemon or the Presents before we jump to our actual planned episode?
Yet. Wait, that was Russian. Okay, well, let's
Ooh.
I'll bleep that.
You're gonna bleep, but you already said it was Russian, right?
I'm also not editing this episode. We'll just cut this out. Angel, cut this part out. 26,
17,
at this point, it's for sure staying. At this point, it's for sure staying.
26:40.
Did not write that down.
Well, anyway, I guess, Angel, did you have any other Pokemon thoughts before we move on?
Nope.
Okay, so beyond Pokemon, the next thing, one big thing that happened in the Switch world these past couple weeks were sports. So many sports. Switch sports. Real sports. Indirectly esports. Sports. Lots of sports.
Sports are always happening.
Sports are always this is true. They all time themselves very strategically, so there is always sports. Except at the start of the pandemic.
I wonder why.
Lost their minds.
Could it be money?
It does make the world go round and does explain Pokemon being pumped out so quickly. You might be onto something, Kevin. I think you cracked this whole thing wide open.
If I'm not in terms of next episode, it's because they took me out.
So the capitalists found you.
You know who took me out.
Yep. But yes, unfortunately, in the case of sports, one we can't confirm or deny we actually played was Switch Sports, because Nintendo, in the most Nintendo-y of ways, forbid participants of the Switch Sports online playtest from actually sharing their impressions of the Switch Sports online playtest. So I'm assuming no one wants to raise their hand and admit they tried it over President's Day weekend when it was going on. Is that a safe bet? Because you don't want the Nintendo ninjas to come take you out after the capitalists do? That's what I thought. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. The internet is a wild place, and it's full of many rule breakers. And I have found in my journeys down this information superhighway, shall we say, that many people did in fact admit to playing Switch Sports and discuss their time with the game behind a shield of anonymity. So instead of sharing impressions if I or we hypothetically did or did not try the game, what if we instead discuss some points made by others that just resonate with us? They're already out there. For example, one thing I saw many say across a thread within the Nintendo Switch subreddit is that the online connectivity was actually very good with little to no hiccups. And before we even get into the games themselves, that fact makes our inability to publicly, legitimately discuss the game, that, should we have played it, it makes it that much more puzzling to me. Like, I did some quick math the morning of the online playtest, and it began 70 days before the game's scheduled April 29th launch. Splatoon 2 had its global test fire, if you guys remember that, at the launch of the Switch, 119 days before its launch. Except with that one, you could actually talk about and share impressions of what you were playing. So it's just very puzzling to me that Nintendo would squander an opportunity here for word of mouth when, they've allowed it before with a much longer lead time. And obviously, if we're talking about things that will sell no matter what, Switch Sports is a game that has big enough brand recognition. It'll sell in the millions regardless. But, why not get some free marketing out of this. It's not like the Nintendo ninjas are actually a big enough force to hunt down and remove all discussions of the game's playtest. If they were, we wouldn't be able to cite anyone here and discuss their experiences. So it's just, I don't know, it's silly to me. Like, this is why those, like, Nintendo-y, like, they don't get the internet moments, I feel like. Which I know, Kevin, you were very aware of when Nintendo does not understand the internet.
Yep.
So,
if it's one thing that if there's one thing that I hate about this company, it's that. It's actually the one and only thing that I hate about this company. There are some things that this company does that I dislike, but more or less I like or love what this company does. But there's only one thing that I hate, is that they just do not understand the internet.
Yeah, and I've seen people counter it with, well, a lot of games say, like, oh, you can't talk about the private beta or whatever. But they also do, like, an invite system where they don't announce it in their biggest broadcast and say anyone can do it. Like, it's like you get an email and then you have to, like, kind of agree to some terms. This one's just like click a button and you're in. So it's just so, in tandem with this, MLB The Show is doing their playtest and they watermark everything you do. Like, the entire game has, like, a layer of watermarks over it with your MLB The Show username.
Oh, that's interesting.
But they still let you share stuff. So, like, it's just so strange. But about those experiences, because I was saying, people have been discussing their experiences. And one through line, and what people were discussing, which possibly resonates, and you notice this in the trailer as well, to be fair, is just that the game does, even in this early form, Switch Sports does seem like a true evolution of, like, the Wii Sports formula. Woohoo Island is now this Spacco Square complex. Mii's are now sports mates, and with all this, it seems like the games have also evolved a bit, which is kind of cool. Like, there's a Redditor, and I'm going to name specific sources because I'm not. Nintendo Ninjas.
We got the Nintendo Ninjas. We got the capitalist ninjas. You want to throw another group into this?
Yeah. Redditors who are shielding themselves behind random usernames. Yes.
We better make this episode the best episode because we're not going to be here in 2 weeks.
I know, right? We're literally putting targets on our backs. Good thing I doxed myself last random Nintendo and not the next one, right?
That's a good point.
Like, people were able to find me if they were in Park City. What?
Did anybody meet up with you?
No. I actually didn't even go to Park City the day I thought I was going to go, so it was totally out of sync. But yeah,
that one fan who's at Park City.
That one poor fan who's just standing in the snow.
Wow.
Just like, he'll be here. Just clutching a printout of our Mii's, just shaking with anticipation for 48 straight
sales
hours.
Numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he prints out the slide deck from the investor relations site. Yeah, I would want to befriend that man or woman. But anyway, yeah, back to Switch Sports. So there was this writer named Blackout Gunshot, and the only reason I'm saying their names is to prove that, like, these are real things. I'm not just, like, using it as a cover. These are real things, real people said that I just happened to find interesting. And yeah, he or she noted that Chambara, the sword fighting minigame, actually does go beyond just one sword, like in Wii Sports Resort. There are now 3 different combat options, I should say. There's regular sword, there's a charged sword, there's dual swords where you actually use both Joy-Cons, one in each hand, and they all have slightly different core strategies. So that's kind of cool to see that Nintendo's, like, taking it beyond just the simple level of here's the one mechanic. Similarly, there's a different Redditor named Verit Rendition who provides a good description of the new survival bowling mode, which is basically like a tournament-style, almost Battle Royale-esque take on the sport. How it works is, like, after the 3rd, 6th, and 9th frames, the player with the lowest score, the group of them, they're cut, whittling down 16 people to ultimately 3 in the final round. But what's cool about it is that it all happens simultaneously. So you don't have to sit and wait for each player to bowl. Instead, there's a 15-second countdown clock for everyone to go. So at most, you're waiting, for that to wind down if you happen to go early. And it's just like, it's like kind of, it really feels like an online take on Wii Sports, from what I've read. The one odd thing about bowling, as noted by a different Redditor named Markster5, is that you don't actually let go of ZR anymore when throwing the ball. You may remember in the old Wii Sports, you release it as you're releasing the imaginary ball, so it really feels like you're letting go of the ball, which also means, you could throw it backwards and make the Mii's jump and be startled and whatever. That's not here anymore, supposedly. It's one fluid motion, no button release. I have to imagine it's because Nintendo doesn't want Joy-Cons flying into TVs like Wii remotes did. But it could, hypothetically, if one were to have tried it, make it feel a little less visceral, I would have to imagine. And then the third sport on tap in the online playtest was tennis, which seems the most one-to-one with what we know from the old Wii Sports. One thing that multiple Redditors noticed is that, at least online, they did actually change the scoring system. So it used to be normal tennis, but now it's just first to 7 with 1 point added for each score. The speculation is this is to minimize the number of deuces, but I do wonder if there'll be more elaborate options in the full game.
Sorry. I'm 12.
Classy, Kevin.
I'm
real
also
classy.
Very tired.
This is also why Nintendo didn't want people talking about it, because you're sullying the poor name of Switch Sports. But yeah, the thought about, like, if there are more elaborate options, I think that's my biggest takeaway from these playtest opinions that I read. Obviously, for a server stress test, we're not going to know the full brunt of what the game has to offer, but it seems like at this stage, what we're guaranteed is a bit more variety within the sport, perhaps versus something like Wii Sports Resort that offered variety using a sport, if that makes sense. Like, if we go back to Chambara in Resort, where it was called sword play at the time, you had your basic match of pushing someone off the little ring, but you also had a speed slicing mode where you did all these different angles as quickly as you could, kind of like Fruit Ninja with motion. And you had like a diet horde mode of sorts, where there were waves of enemies and you had to kind of like knock them down. Even table tennis, if I remember correctly, in Resort had like both regular matches and a how many can you hit a return for in a row challenge. So my hope with Switch Sports is that, in addition to the pro mode unlocks that we know about and outfit accessories you can earn, there's also those maybe secondary modes that use each sports mechanics in a kind of different way. I think there's a decent chance Switch Sports will offer this, since it certainly feels like the online play test wasn't a fully finished product at this point. Like, one thing multiple Redditors mentioned was there isn't even HD Rumble at the moment, which seems like it would be a total no-brainer to include in a game like this, especially since it's first party. So most likely, we're not getting the full picture here in every sense. Never mind, that we do know more is coming, like golf down the line in like the fall or something. But I really do hope it's there, because, like, for me at least, as someone who often would play the old Wii Sports game, Wii Sports. I'm mixing up the names. Yeah, who would play the old Wii Sports game solo. Like, these secondary modes were a big part of the experience as an alternative to when, like, friends couldn't come over or there was no one around. Like, I don't know. Did you guys ever play Wii Sports as a solo affair, or was Wii Sports strictly a social affair for you guys when you played?
To me, it was just the thing we brought out when someone hadn't really played the Wii U before. I mean, the Wii before. So, yeah, outside of that, I don't think I ever took it out specifically to play something for fun. It was either because we had company over, or we didn't really have any games yet.
Yep, same.
Did you guys even buy Resort?
I did, because I wanted the Wii Motion Plus.
Right.
And then it kind of just fell into the same cycle. Like, once we played all the mini games once, and we're like, yeah, this is kind of cool. Then we just never really played it again until we wanted to show it off to someone.
That's kind of where I'm wondering where Switch Sports is going to end up. Like, it has a brand recognition. The Switch is a multiplayer-centric machine. But, like, if it doesn't have a reason to buy it, like you get it with the Wii or you get a controller with it, and a lot of people probably do it multiplayer like you guys did exclusively, how much traction is it going to get? Like, it's not going to sell 32 million like Resort did, I don't think. It's certainly not going to be like 86 million or whatever the original was.
I mean, for Wii Sports, I mean, it was packed with the console. Like, no one made a conscious choice to buy it.
Exactly.
Like, this one, if you're buying it, it's because you're genuinely going to play it. So I imagine...
Right.
I don't know. I think it'll do fine. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it'll do fine on the heels of the fact that it has online.
Right. That makes sense. Although, to sort of counter that, Wii Sports Club on the Wii U kind of came and went without much of a fuss or much of attention. And that was basically Wii Sports literally with netcode thrown in. But this one does seem like a proper use of online. So maybe, and like actually thought through, like there's, from what I read, there's an emote system and stuff integrated this time too. So yeah, maybe that will be the deal maker here. But based on what I saw on the internet, not firsthand, it seems like it'll be cool for $40. Like, it seems like it'll be fun. Which nicely, I guess, because we're talking about how we play Wii Sports or sports games, I guess it kind of nicely brings us to the broader discussion of sports games in general. Those out there listening, and even you two, may recall at the start of the year we mentioned we'd be doing kind of a sporadic segment dubbed the genre series, where we'd reflect on a specific game genre or likes and dislikes or memories, what have you. And we did puzzle games already. And with Switch Sports and, MLB The Show both doing their playtest simultaneously on Switch, it kind of felt like the time to talk about sports games because it's like, man, could those games be any more different? Those two online playtests. Like the sports genre's range is huge in terms of what is a sports game. Where do you guys tend to land on the spectrum? Are you more arcadey, simulation, both, neither?
Definitely more on the arcadey side. Simulation ones can be fun. I've definitely had my fair share of fun with vanilla FIFA back on the mainly PS1 days, and occasionally, since I do have a good number of friends that love those FIFA games, like I do occasionally play from time to time with them, but I never know what I'm doing when I'm playing. Like it's just fun to slide tackle, so that's all I literally do. Typically in a game, I will try to get disqualified by getting the majority of my team a red card. And I've done that twice where my team had to forfeit just because they didn't have enough subs. So that's pretty cool. That's as far as it goes with simulation.
The way you said that's pretty cool. Yeah, I got a red card. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Cool. Something you don't really see too often. Yeah, otherwise, I think like Mario Baseball, which I know I've talked to death in the show about in the past, like that one probably fall somewhere between just because rules-wise, it follows pretty much all the rules for baseball. Like more so than probably any other Mario sports game, except for maybe tennis. But yeah, I guess, there aren't that many rules in tennis. So, which just makes this one that much more impressive because there are many more rules and technicalities in baseball that it just happens to all have, which is just great. So, yeah, the fact that Mario Baseball exists, I'm really happy about, but I just kind of wish we had more of it. We did get a new soccer coming up, which, Strikers is also pretty cool, but yeah, I want another baseball. Just give us...
Angel, to clarify, Mario Strikers is not based on the sport of soccer. It's based on the sport of strikers, which is soccer in everything but name. So it's not quite soccer. It's close though.
You're right. Yeah, it's like, it's just some weird thing. But yeah, so that one, it's a sports game. It's just aggressive soccer.
It totally is. Yeah. I'm just kind of...
Yeah, if anything, it's more like Rocket League.
Call it soccer. Yeah,
it's going to be hard.
And see, that's the thing. Is like Rocket League, if you think about it, obviously is a sports game, but also is like barely a sports game. So it's interesting how that...
Yeah, because
that range is.
Yeah, because I don't really think of it like a sports game. If anything, I don't know what I think it is. It's like a weird, just a competitive party game, I guess.
Yeah, like just an online competitive game that doesn't happen to involve guns. Yeah,
kind of like Mario 3-on-3. Like that one, it's clearly basketball. It's called Mario Hoops, but I remember playing it. I never really felt like I got a basketball experience. It was just this fun niche thing that was like, oh, how many times can you bounce the ball before you like make a slam dunk? And the slam dunks were always these like crazy patterns on the DS touchscreen that you had to like, create depending on which character you picked. So if anything, it felt more puzzly than anything, but that was also quite the experience.
Technically a sport, yeah. It's such a very, because like you could argue every genre has a lot of variety, but just like what falls under the umbrella of sports, it's more of an aesthetic almost than it is a gameplay mechanic. Kevin, do you play much in the sports world of gaming at all?
Not really. I do like sports games though. My first ever sports game was All-Star Baseball 2000. Oh, here I'm doing it again. It was All-Star Baseball 2002 on the PS2. It was actually my first PS2 game. I remember
20 years ago, Kevin. 20 years ago.
All right, this is absolutely my last episode of Random Nintendo. It's been a great run. Thank you for having me, guys. No, All-Star Baseball 2002. If I remember correctly, Derek Jeter was on the cover of that game. Man, that game was developed by Acclaim. I remember that.
That was one of their big franchises.
Yeah.
Acclaim. They only had like
Sports.
3, and that was one of them.
Do you remember when these companies had like a sports subdivision? Like
even Nintendo did.
EA Sports. They had EA Big. Oh, the EA Big games were the best. SSX.
Oh, for sure.
Even that reboot of SSX that we got Man, how long has it been?
Honestly, I think that was almost a decade ago now. Its anniversary was literally this weekend.
Dude,
I saw a tweet about it.
Okay, I gotta stop talking about dates on this. But yeah, I like. Yeah, the most recent sports game that I played is like something like Rocket League. I mean, Knockout City is technically a sports game.
Yeah, dodgeball. There's a league for it somewhere. Yeah, I think I side with you guys where I definitely skew more towards arcadey. I think it's because like as sports games became more complex, like I just preferred sticking with kind of the simplicity, the pick up and play nature. Like I do remember, if we really want to date ourselves, back in the N64 days when I used to rent a lot of games from Blockbuster Video, I would repeatedly rent NHL 99 by EA Sports. It's in the game.
EA Sports
and every time, no, just EA Sports regular.
Oh, it was an NHL.
Yeah,
I would like hockey.
Well, so the reason I like hockey is because every time I'd visit family in New York, my dad would take me to a New York Rangers game. So kid me thought it would be cool to be able to control the Rangers. My dad's from New York. Of course, he's going to take me to a Ranger game.
No, the Islanders are also a team.
Yeah, but they're like, we're not going out of Staten Island. Like, no.
Yeah, it's
no. But yeah, the game, while it did, have accurate licensed player stats and tried to be true to sport and all, it was still, more a video game than anything else because it was on the N64. The tech wasn't really there. But as we moved on to GameCube and, PS2 and all that, and the NHL series started to evolve with more advanced tech, I actually found myself drifting towards the NHL Hits series, which, if you don't know, the Hits games are the NFL Blitz counterparts, which I think actually came first. They leaned all the way in on being a video game. They're like the Mario Strikers of their sports, kind of. Well, yeah, to like a degree. But they actually, to me, felt like the natural continuation of the feel of the N64 hockey games. And, all this, of course, was happening in tandem with the Mario sports games kind of becoming a thing, and with EA Big evolving into what it was for that minute with like NBA Street and SSX Tricky, which is the best SSX, and what have you. And, they were all clearly video games first, opposed to simulations or something trying to be more like serious. Even if they, in the case like Mario Sports, even if they did account for wind and club types in golf or the court materials and how they affect your ball bounce in tennis, like they still had that arcadey edge, and that's just kind of what I have always gravitated towards. But I did decide to give simulated sports a chance with MLB The Show's tech test the other week, because it's been a long time. It's completely free to try, no obligation. And, the few times I do a quick match of FIFA or something at E3 or whatever, I basically turned into Angel and would slide tackle like crazy and had fun with it. So maybe there's something here with the most simmy of the sports sims, because MLB The Show is like pretty well known for being the most of like simulated, right? Like it's the most real, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So to be able to actually like sit down and sink my teeth
except for that year that they had the really messed up faces.
Oh, in the Switch one?
No, just in general. This is the first year that's
this is the first year.
MLB, what show was it? I think it was like 2 years ago. There was this horrifying glitch that.
Oh yeah. Back when it was still PS4 exclusive. Yeah.
It
I remember that.
It gave everybody like holes in their face, and like if you had what's that one condition, like trypophobia, like.
Yeah, where you're afraid of like
a Junji Ito painting.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. It was something, and that clearly is not a real take on a sport, but the game normally is. So this was a good chance to like sink my teeth into what a so-called real sports game is in 2022. And yeah, it's not for me. I confirm that. For me at least, like there was like one crazy learning curve with something like the show, because like everything has a unique meter or a cursor or a quick action button, and I tried to go and read about the controls and the menus, but hitting and pitching each had 8 full pages of instructions to get through. 8 pages, and to be fair, like that depth is going to be a hit with some folks. Absolutely. I mean, MLB The Show is a huge franchise now, and from what I've read and what the tech test menus suggested, it seemed like the show is feature complete on Switch, which is pretty cool. It's certainly more than you could say about the FIFA games on Switch of late. But surely what like didn't help the experience when doing the tech test is that the game runs interestingly on the Switch in its current form, I guess you could say. Like on the one hand, parts of it look pretty nice in handheld mode, even like specifically jerseys and shadows on the cloth. But then on the other hand, there was like literally everything else. The game like chugged at a low frame rate. A lot of the animation, especially the crowds, look pretty janky. Like, the game's not out till April 5th, and, San Diego studio already put out a statement saying that the Switch version is going to be optimized for 30 frames per second. It's already running smoother than what they had in the tech test. They're even lowering the overall output resolution of the game to hit that frame rate. So I don't really want to dwell on the performance of the game too much, but really I just want to focus on my own performance in that being so poor, confirming that, that side of the sports genre is definitely not for me. But it is cool that such a big franchise is now on
What team did you
Switch.
choose? Or what team did it give you the option of choosing?
There are only like 3. It's like you could be Cincinnati, you could be Boston, or you could be LA. Or actually, let me rephrase, those were the teams that were in it. But you can make a custom team. So it let you type anything in. So I'm going to be like, I'm the Los Angeles Bidoof, because of course. But then you also have to pick a soundbite. So when they introduce the team, they say the name. Obviously, Bidoof isn't there. So it was the Bidoofs / Beavers. And I know someone out there is like, Jason, if you're a Bidoof fan, he's a plump rat, not a beaver. And you are correct. But I had to work with what the soundbites gave me. So we had to make some concessions. But yeah, I don't know. I do wonder, like, in general, because Angel, you were mentioning Mario Baseball. I feel like that's the sport that you can't, like, it's, no matter what it is, for me, I feel like it's one sim too far, if that makes sense. Like, even with Mario Baseball, it's probably, as you said, like the least arcadey of the bunch of them. And maybe it's just something about baseball in general, because you're accounting for pitch types and curves and needing to hit in just the right spot of the bat. But it always has felt the most like simmy to me. I mean, maybe I'm misguided. Like, there's those old backyard baseball games and games.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I've tried normal baseball sim games like MLB The Show before, and the little additions that Mario makes to it, to me, like, make it way more interesting. Because at the end of the day, like, while it does follow all the rules of baseball, it still has like the Mario spin to it. Like you just mentioned, the fact that you have to hit the ball in the right spot. Like, they take that to, like, the whole new level, to the next level with Mario Baseball, because you literally have some people that bat with, a boxing glove or a hammer. So the little spot where you have to hit the ball is literally like a little circle. Like, you normally don't have that in baseball. It's like literally the full bat. So you have, that's a contender. But, obviously that's not like, that's not like a fun thing. That just makes it harder. But then you have like...
Which for you is a fun thing, to be fair.
Yeah, so it's like the limit. So then you have like the chemistry or the buddy. I guess, like, I'm gonna call them attacks. They're not attacks, obviously, but then you have like the buddy. Well, I call it the buddy system. So if you're in the outfield, if someone's gonna hit a home run and you selected 2 outfielders all the way in the back that have good chemistry with each other, they will start running like the Flash. And if you get them right on top of each other, you could jump on top of the other, and they'll literally launch the other person up into the stratosphere to catch the ball. So what would normally be a grand slam is now completely avoidable in Mario Baseball, and only in Mario Baseball, as well as literally tackling the ball to someone with good chemistry, to laser in the ball to home base. And that's not even counting the star pitches, which you have to strategically hold to the end, because, Wario could make the ball appear like double, or Waluigi has a liar ball where it throws like this giant ball that in the very last second poofs into the tiny one, but you don't know if it's going to be in or out. Like, whether you're going to, like, swing for a ball or just guess it correctly. And, and then there's also, obviously, the stage hazards, which are a very Mario thing to have in I guess there's sports games. You have the thwomps that can straight up block a hit, or the piranha plants that if you hit a ball near them, they'll grab it and literally warp the ball to the other side of the field. Sometimes hurting you, sometimes really, really helping you. So... so it's kind of stuff that keeps it nice and Mario-y and exciting compared to normal baseball.
I do wonder if, because as you're describing, like, that sounds fun, but then I've played it with you, and I have it on GameCube. Like, I do wonder.
And we normally have items off. I mean, there's also items, but.
Right. Yeah. Right. But I do wonder if it's the fact that it's the one sport that's, like, turn-based, for lack of a better way of putting it, Like, it just, the pacing just. Because there's, like, there's other arcade series. There's Power Pros from Konami, which is huge in Japan. I was starting to say backyard baseball was a thing in the GameCube and PS2 days. Like, there are other things. I'm just curious, like, if there's ever going to be that sweet spot where, like, it feels fast-paced. Maybe that's what I'm missing. I don't know. And it's actually the thing that caught my eye most recently when, or not caught my eye, but got me thinking, 2K Games is apparently going to be making Lego sports games now. It's not official yet.
Lego
but
Brawler, that's crazy. What the heck is going on here?
Well, okay, not that. That's already on iPhone anyway.
No, I know,
but no, they're. Oh yeah, in general, yes. If you want to touch on that, yeah, Lego Brawler is essentially Lego Smash Bros. Yep, kind of. But yeah, no, Lego's expanding out into a whole bunch of different directions because they have this 2K thing that if it gets, official, it's a multi-game partnership that was apparently just signed between the two of them. The first game's going to be a Lego soccer game currently under development at Sumo Digital, who is the studio behind the Sackboy standalone game and Angel, one I know you like, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. So now they're doing a soccer game with Legos. And the second, supposedly an open-world racing game by the guys who developed WWE 2K22, Visual Concepts. But after that, it is a multi-game deal. I'm kind of like, maybe if there's anyone I could find a way to, sort of spin baseball in a different direction. I feel like Legos can get away with, what if you're, building things as things fall apart? I don't know. It just kind of, I was maybe this is the thing that makes baseball more, real-time. I don't know. But I think baseball's just tough for me.
So 2K actually was concurrently developing sports games when EA pretty much had every franchise under lock and key. Well, not under lock and key, but I remember NFL 2K games were, if I remember correctly, they were cheaper. I think they were $20 a pop. Yep. And they were better than Madden. So, I mean, obviously it's not going to be the same developers from yesteryear, but there I go again, dating. This is a very... I didn't expect to have
self-reflective episode.
I didn't expect to have my quarter-life crisis during a Nintendo podcast, but here we are. But they are known to have made some pretty stellar sports games back in the day.
Yeah, and I think if that DNA is still in there anywhere, I think Visual Concepts, the guys who are doing the open world race game, I want to say they were involved with the 2K Sports back in the aughts or the.
That being said, the most recent WWE game was terrible. So
21 or 22?
22.
Well, that's a problem because they're the ones doing the racing game.
It might have been 21. I don't remember. It was a transition year when the developers that had been doing the WWE game, Ukes, they left the project, or I guess 2K fired them. And Visual Concept came over to take over, and that game was received terribly.
Yeah, I do remember you talking about that, actually, I think at the time. And that's a whole other genre of sport game, by the way. I know wrestling isn't real, per se, but they're considered sports games. No, and that's absolutely. Had a huge following. Yeah, like the N64 WWF at the time games. Those are always fun at a friend's house with a group of people. But yeah, I'm kind of hopeful that 2K might try and use the Lego sports games to get their groove back in that genre, though, because they basically, even the few times they do stuff, like when they had Rockstar do Rockstar Table Tennis, that was very well received, and that was just table tennis. So there's something in that company that maybe can do something. But I think one of the other reasons, as I was thinking about this, and putting the episode together, I think one of the other reasons I like arcade sports games more is because they don't have to be annualized in the same way as the simulations. It's not like there's going to be a Lego Soccer 2022 and a Lego Soccer 2023 because they don't follow the sports as closely. In many cases, they're not even associated with a league or anything. And that means they can do what they want, when they want, how they want. And that, generally to me, feels like it provides more opportunity for some innovation or interesting gameplay ideas. That's kind of the other thing about the sports genre, right? It feels more stagnant than most, even though it has probably more releases than most, because within the individual franchises, they can't move very far forward. It's a constant complaint I've heard about Madden, and for Switch owners in particular, we've seen it with the Legacy editions year after year at FIFA. They literally just swap the roster and charge another full MSRP. And I think this annual grind of needing to get the player stats, I don't know. I do get that some of this is out of the hands of publishers as well because the leagues themselves make it difficult. A few days ago, there were some leaked comments from EA's CEO who specifically was calling out FIFA as being what's impeding any attempts to evolve the gameplay in the series. He was saying that, fans have wanted more than just 11 versus 11, and FIFA's just nope. And it's FIFA's noping all the way down every feature request. Like, we're not going to see anything interesting come out of those games because FIFA won't let it. But also, because they're on this kind of annual grind to stay up with player stats, it's just harder for them to actually sit down and like reinvent the wheel or, change things in any way. And I've had a hunch this might be why serious sports games have really been the big holdout into the free-to-play model. Like, certainly there are games as service aspects. MLB The Show has the whole, like, Diamond Dynasty thing where you, like, buy stubs and packs and stuff. And then NBA 2K has a bunch of its own microtransactions. And, being able to bundle graphical improvements is like a yearly full MSRP update is going to rake in cash, and no one wants to give that up. But I have wondered why sports games don't have, like, a war zone to their Call of Duty, so to speak. Is it... And I think it might be because the leagues are kind of holding them back.
I think Konami's trying.
You think Konami's trying?
I think Konami... So their Pro Evolution Soccer series, I think it's got some crazy ass name now. I think it's like eFootball something. I guess that's not that as crazy. Just E in front of
that wasn't
football.
Crazy.
But yeah, I think they're trying to make that into a platform rather than a yearly release.
I mean, it makes sense that sports, like, the reason free-to-plays work so well to me is because they're constantly evolving, right? There's always a new hook to get you to cough up more money for items or a battle pass or whatever. So as these games are able to, like, I guess, break free of the restrictions of the leagues or whatever they're licensing, like Konami did, because, yeah, they're not Pro Evolution anymore. They have no ties to anyone, right? It's just its own thing. As they're able to do that, like, maybe that's where we're going to, then they can kind of go balls to the wall with it, like, literally, but also figuratively. Like, if you look at, like, Rocket League, it is soccer like we were talking about, but it's so arcadey, and they're able to iterate on it in so many ways, and they introduce, like, hockey mode, and they have, like, icy things, and all this stuff that, like, if it was FIFA, I could understand why FIFA would be like, well, hold on, that's not how soccer works, but they can do whatever they want, and that's how it's able to stay successful. Or, you mentioned earlier Knockout City, Kevin, like, dodgeball isn't a huge professional sport, like I was saying, but it went the arcadey route, and it's about to actually go full free-to-play. Valence Studios announced the switchover is planned for June, at which point they'll take over publishing duties from EA and self-publish. But there again, like, dodgeball is like the core of it, but it goes way more arcadey, and because of that, it's able to do a lot more interesting stuff and stay fresh and evolve and change. And yeah, I think that's just kind of weird about sports, is you have this one side of it that's like that, and then the other side is just like kind of just on the grind, like, notice the grind, so just doing the same thing over and over and over. And I can't think of very many other genres that are quite like that. So it's interesting. It's a very unique genre within gaming. But to go on a quick tangent about Knockout, that's interesting, isn't it? That EA's stepping away from it and Valence going free to play with it.
So they don't have that EA money anymore?
They do not. I don't know if that's because EA didn't have faith in the game. Yeah, they're self-publishing. Yeah, EA is stepping away completely. I don't know if it's because they didn't have faith in the game or what. Like, it certainly doesn't have the biggest player base. I don't know. I credit Valen for wanting to see through their vision. I think in retrospect, the $20 barrier of entry for a strictly online multiplayer game was maybe a bit much of an ask. Like, I personally liked it because it meant other monetization schemes were kept to a minimum, at least at first. But as you guys know, because we all play it together, like, the premium battle passes are kind of becoming more prominent in later seasons. So perhaps this was just the next step down that path anyway. But yeah, hopefully it gives a second wind.
The whole release feels a little messy. Like, that game could have done so well if it had just been free to play from the very beginning. Because, I mean, a lot of people vouch for it. We vouch for it. I mean, I hosted a whole tournament for it. But, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, you did? You actually did a tournament for it?
Yeah.
Like, one of your tournaments you organized? Oh, that's cool.
A little while ago. But, yeah, and a lot of people bought it. A lot of people were, like, hoping it would go on sale, and they managed to catch it on, like, $5 off, $10 off. But, yeah, now it's free. And I know a lot of people that are willing to get it now that it's free, but it just seems a shame that it could have been that way from the very begining.
Yeah, and they tried too, right? Like, they did that whole, like, up to level 20 is free, and then you start paying. It's just like they were so they had their heels dug so deep in the we don't want to go full freemium. But then even while doing that, they started in the game shop kind of going full freemium. So it's like this weird dichotomy. Like, I don't know. It's strange. The game's great, though. Like, if you get over the bizarre... I wonder how much that monetization, actually, now that I think about it, and yes, I did just cut myself off mid-word there. I wonder how much of it was EA pushing and Valen pulling. Like, how much do you think was a conflict between what EA wanted in terms of monetization and what Valen wanted in terms of their vision for the game? Because that would explain why things kind of felt at odds at times, and why EA stepped away. Like, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like they came to a compromise of some sort. Everything felt like it was a compromise. But, yeah.
Kevin, were you going to say something?
No, I mean, I'm sure the studio would actually rather be... you know what? I can't say for sure. I know when Bungie went independent, Destiny saw some changes that were praised by fans, but then they would do some other changes that weren't, and they thought maybe, well, now it's because they don't have that Activision money. Hopefully this game... I mean, I wish nothing but best for the studio. That game is fantastic. Haven't played it in a while,
I hope it leads to more players checking it out. And I do think, to your point about like the Activision money or the EA money, they do in their back pocket have some Nintendo money, because these are guys that did Mario Kart Live home circuit. So they have some cash reserves. But yeah, hopefully it's enough to kind of propel it to what it should be and what it deserves to be.
That being said, when games of this caliber go free to play, you do get a huge influx of cheaters. So
and bots.
Yep.
Hacks.
Yep. So we'll see how that...
And which also becomes a big investment. Yeah, and that becomes a big investment in and of itself to counter that. So the money gets siphoned off in ways that it shouldn't have to. Yeah, it's there's got to be a point, by the way. I know I was like, I'm surprised sports aren't free to play, but there is going to be a point where there's going to be too many free to plays. Like, there's going to be a point where free to plays will, and it's already happening. Ubisoft's Battle Royale came and went. Amazon had one that came and went. Like, it used to be if you're free, you're pretty much guaranteeing an audience. But if everything's free, like if it's kind of like the race to the bottom thing of the App Store for iOS a few years ago, like, there's going to be a point where that's not going to be enough of a strategy to guarantee you actually have a successful game, even though it was, for a number of years, the strategy to guarantee a successful game. You know?
Right.
I hope Knockout isn't one of the first to suffer from this shift, but I guess we shall see. At least we have each other, guys, because we always do private matches, so we never have to worry about finding people to play. It's just us.
You know, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll always have each other as long as the servers stay on. We'll keep the lights on. But anyway, yeah, sports. That was sports. Was there anything else you guys want to talk about in terms of sports games?
Nope.
Fair. Angel?
Not at this very moment, yeah.
Well, then let's do a quick genre pivot, because I know something you do want to talk about, Angel. Fighting games. Fighting games. A compilation of fighting games. Capcom announced the Capcom Fighting Collection a few weeks back, coming to all platforms, Switch included, out this June. Interestingly, the first ever time Darkstalkers will appear on a Nintendo platform. And, Angel, you wanted to touch on this, I think. That's what you were telling me anyway. So what caught your eye about this?
Kind of that. What you just said, the fact that this is the first time Darkstalkers is appearing on a Nintendo console.
I stole your thunder.
No. I mean, that's always one of my favorite, at least Capcom fighting game properties. It is very interesting compared to, your Street Fighters and such, just because, it's just different. It just, the creature designs were interesting. Everything about it was just unique. But the unfortunate thing about this is that this is definitely a test, which unfortunately, like Darkstalkers, like, as passionate of a fan base as it has, like, unfortunately, I guess it just seems like no one buys their games. Like, everyone says, and by everyone, I'm just, when I'm following the general discourse around Darkstalkers, like, just fans clamoring for a remake, a sequel, like, something new about it. And Capcom releases, like, remakes or collections. The last one being Darkstalker Resurrection for, I think, PS3. And yeah, people didn't buy it, and it just kind of died that way. Like, the closest thing we get to new Darkstalkers is just Morrigan and Felicia, two of the main characters, the cat and the succubus, appearing like in every Marvel versus game. And yeah, so I guess unless this does well, I guess it's just going to be another time that we don't get any more Darkstalkers because like no one's going to buy it. Because I mean, this is what, like the umpteenth time that we have these versions of Street Fighter with online.
Well, there's only one Street Fighter in the compilation, which is Hyper Street Fighter 2.
Interesting that they went with that one. But
yeah, they have a couple Street Fighter spin-offs.
Yeah, at least
Super
that one.
Fighter Mini Mix, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, which I'm excited for. But yeah, the bulk of the compilation, it's 10 games in total. The bulk is actually like the vibe of Darkstalkers. There's Darkstalkers, the Night Warriors. There's its sequel, which is called Night Warriors Darkstalkers Revenge, which they literally just switched the subtitle to become the title. Anyway, there's Vampire Savior 1 and 2. There's Vampire Hunter 2. There's Red Earth, which I think is an arcade-only fighter that for the first time ever is going to be available on a home console. There's something that sounds straight out of Transformers, Cyberbots, Full Metal Madness, and then there's the two puzzle games in Hyper Street Fighter. So yeah, in terms of like a Capcom compilation, to your point, it's very minimally Street Fighter, actually, for once.
Yeah, but the puzzle fighter I know is definitely a fan favorite. I mean, that was definitely, just because I definitely hear a lot of people playing or talking about that one. So that's pretty cool.
And it's online now. They're all going to be online, full rollback netcode.
Yeah, I hope this does
online matchmaking that's ranked and casual for folks like me and custom. You know, there's going to be training modes for newcomers. There's going to be like apparently like 500 pieces of art and 400 songs. Like this is like a legit compilation, even though it is a re-release for like the 15,000th time of some of these. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully Capcom or hopefully people buy this and then Capcom like goes ahead and just makes something else out of this. But I guess I'll have to say, like maybe a new Puzzle Fighter or a new Darkstalker or something. But I guess time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm kind of curious, like, what is their takeaway? If someone buys this for Darkstalkers, how do they know they bought it for Darkstalkers and not for Puzzle Fighter? I guess they can look at the play stats, because, like, you know, for someone like me, like, if I were to buy this, I only care about Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. I loved the Game Boy Advance version of that game. I think because it actually, like, pretty cleverly took a basic puzzle mechanic and kind of worked it into a pseudo-fighting game. Like, have you, Andrew, you're saying you know people love it. Have you ever played it? Or Kevin, have you ever played it? Puzzle Fighter?
No, never played it.
Once, but never really played it. I know Elvis, my brother, really plays it a lot, or really liked it, at least on the mobile phone. He really loved the mobile phone version. They
kept that going for like a month and then shut it down. I was really bummed because it was
pretty
really true to the core game.
Yeah, he loved that game. So it was even more, and it had Phoenix Wright in it, so it makes it more of a weird bummer that they just got rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about it was pretty clever because it is ultimately like you match like colored blocks to clear them, as you would do in Puzzle League or Tetris or whatever. But what was kind of cool about it, and even the mobile one did this, is there's like kind of a second layer beyond just clearing the rows because there's like a counter system. So if you clear a row, you're not, if I remember correctly, you're not just sending garbage blocks back to the other screen. You're actually sending literal counters that are time blocks that if your opponent doesn't clear in time will turn into colored blocks that will then mess up their combos in progress. So if you're able to send those over in mass, obviously, that's like doing lots of little combos. And if you were able to create I think it's a square of 4 of the same color on your side, you then send over like a super power combo, like bigger thing that sends even more exponentially higher number of counter like garbage blocks. And it felt like as you're playing it that you're like landing combos and perfect combos, and there's like the tug of war between you and the opponent that comes with that, kind of fighting game, like nailing the combo feeling. And yeah, it just is like really cool. It kind of reminds me of how like Pokemon Puzzle Challenge could make a puzzle match feel like an actual like battle. Like this was the same sort of thing. So I hope it does well, and I hope the playstats show they could do a sequel, or even for Darkstalker fans, like you're saying, Angel. Hopefully enough people buy it, and it does well enough on the online scene that maybe they give it another go.
Yeah, the unfortunate part is that, like, as much as I would want it to succeed, like, one of the questions is, like, am I going to get it? And right now my answer is kind of like, no. It's like, I would.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
I don't know. It's tough. Like, if I'm getting it, and honestly, the only reason I would get it, and it is something I'm still debating in my head, like it's not 100% sure. Like, I'd be getting it strictly just to support it. Like, I'm not even gonna like I just have no plans on playing it. I got like the Street Fighter collection on Switch. I got the Street Fighter 2, which was a test to get us the Street Fighter collection on Switch. So like it does work. We get that success, but yeah, like I barely play any of these games anymore. So it's like if I get this compilation that's barely gonna get played, am I even gonna have time to play this other one? I don't know. I guess Smash Brothers is done as a game that's getting updated, so
yeah,
there is a chance that something might move in, but at the same time, with 80 characters, the meta is always evolving. So I don't know. It's tough to say. I don't know. Maybe I would just get it and just leave it downloaded. At least that way I'll be able to play the Darkstalkers game every once in a while. But I don't know. I mean, I guess if they do make a new standalone Darkstalkers game, like brand new from the ground up, then maybe that could be the next fighting game I decide to dedicate myself to. But then again, look what happened to Nickelodeon All-Stars. Like, I mean, Shredder came out. I mean, I actually genuinely liked that game. But yeah, I guess without a consistent stream of other people that are consistently interested in it, it just dies on quickly. Like, I don't know,
that
Kevin.
Game
if it
went so fast.
If it wasn't for, and I feel like the same thing's gonna happen to that WB one. Like, I already have less
Multiversus.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like
Great
it looks like a more it definitely looks like a more polished game for sure. Because it looks like they had more money. Like, obviously, I'm not blaming I forget who developed All Stars Brawl. Like, what they had, with what they did a good job. Like, I enjoyed that game, but yeah, I don't even think the polish of the WB game is gonna save it in the long run. It just, I don't know, it's missing something. I don't know what it is yet, but Smash Bros. Has it, and these don't. So
yeah,
I mean,
it's like that spirit, like the soul of it is different. Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for your crew, Kevin, would you see yourself actually playing? I'm already forgetting. Titanfall multiplayer free to play game.
Apex Legends.
Yes. Yeah. Could you see yourself playing Apex Legends if you if let's say like Elvis and all of them just stop playing it altogether? Like, would you still play it, or would you eventually would it just die out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd still play it, but that's just me. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I am the reason that everybody started replaying the game, because we played that game before the first season started, and then randomly out of the blue, I was like, let me get back into Apex. I started playing it a little bit, was starting to fall in love with it again, and then eventually told the guys like, hey, play Apex with me, and that's what got us to start replaying Apex.
Oh, okay, that's a lot. So, do you have a game like that then? Like, if it wasn't for other people playing it, you probably wouldn't bother with it, but you do generally like the game. Is that what Overwatch was, or everyone just stopped playing it simultaneously?
You know what? Overwatch would probably be that game, even though I stopped playing it. I mean, I know your brother has pretty much stopped playing it. Matthew continues to play it, but yeah, for that game for sure. If they were to stop playing it, I too would probably stop playing it. Would have stopped playing it if it wasn't just for me stopping to play it just in general. I'm sorry, that game off was really confusing.
No, I got you.
I followed.
Yeah, Jason, what about you? What game?
The one. I mean, okay, the joke here is it's every game, but no, the one I can specifically cite is Rocket League. If you guys aren't playing it, I won't be playing it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Actually, yeah, we do have some. I mean, I guess does that go for all the does that also go for Knockout City then?
No, I played Knockout City without you guys, or more so in the earlier days than now.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like now,
match with people.
Like if we all drop Knockout City, could you see yourself you know what? I'm just gonna boot it up and go for it.
I would continue to check out each new season. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because I like to see how they innovate on the idea, because I think they do some cool stuff. Except the last season with the little hoverboards, that was weak. But for the most part,
the theme was the season. The theme was cool.
So the new season, because they're transitioning to free to play, the new season is strictly best of from the old seasons, and then when they go free to play with season 6, they'll introduce new mechanics again.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a stopgap because they need to kind of reorient internally at the studio.
They have enough old things to have a best of. I feel like it's only been 2 seasons. I'm sure there's more, but
they're on season 5,
I feel like I just remember movies and aliens.
those were kind of the bulk of it, but they did like they had like the I don't even remember, but they had variants. They had different modes. They had like
they had them.
They had them. Angel, they had them. If you go look, you'll see them.
Oh, that's right. They had the basketball game, and there was also a snow one.
Yeah, the dunking one.
Yeah, there was
they also had like the mega matches or like the bigger matches or whatever, and then the smaller and like stuff like that. They had like the closing in battle royale thing. They have different stuff. Someone understands what I said out there when I'm like the closing in battle royale thing, but someone out there's like, I got you, Jason. And
but I feel that's always in rotation. I was thinking more of like the special themes, but
oh, fair. Well, the themes haven't been too wild, but yeah, in terms of gameplay, they've been adding different stuff. Like everything we just talked about was not there in season 1, and some of it hasn't come back since its respective season.
Yeah.
Point is, in June you'll find something new, so sit tight, Angel. Mister, you don't have time to play anything else anyway, so you're fine.
Yeah, which is why I value these like Wednesday night. Like if you have a group of friends that you just pick a day to play games with consistently, those are very valuable. Because I feel kind of like Jason said, like if it wasn't for that, we probably wouldn't have experienced Splatoon for as long as we did.
Mm-hmm.
Knockout City, Rocket League. Occasion with a different group, we have that one game
Rogue Heroes.
Torchlight, Rogue Heroes, Minecraft Dungeons.
Minecraft Dungeons is actually really my favorite of those bunch. Yeah,
Marvel Superheroes, which I feel like none of us.
Nope,
literally,
that's not the name.
Marvel
Ultimate
whatever.
Alliance 3, the Black Order.
Wow, I didn't even realize it was like the Black Order. Oh my god,
Marvel Superheroes is just that's like saying a genre.
I mean, it was fun.
Not even a genre. That's just such a noun. It's just like there are Marvel superheroes.
It was literally just a game that occupied our thumbs while we had conversations.
Most of them are.
Oh well, that one more in particular, more so than others. I feel like I don't think any of us really paid attention to the story outside of like what's going on with this like character, like who's this person, or who's that person.
Because and I think even when we gave impressions of the game after the fact here on the show, like a year ago or so. Yeah, we were basically like, yeah, it's like kind of mindless but fun, but I
did appreciate the mindless. I mean, I like the fact that I was able to just mindlessly mash hits while just chatting with friends. Like it served a purpose. I don't know if that was an intended one. Like, I'm sorry. I'm
sure the developers are really
like I apologize to the writers and the animators that like I'm sure they did a great job. It's like, oh, didn't you play the game?
Voice actors.
Yeah, if I had seen or paid more attention to it, but like I got enjoyment out of it, and I appreciate that.
Here's how I make them feel better. At the same time that Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 came out, we also had Square Enix's The Avengers. One of them you constantly hear about in a negative light. The other one just like peacefully came and went. Which one do you think you'd rather be part of?
I did like the character models. I'd love it if like if a Marvel vs. Capcom game used those models. I mean, just because they look like the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 models.
Right. Actually, to bring it all back for a minute to Capcom, there was a thing you're saying about like, would you buy it to support it, the Capcom Fine Collection? And I've been patiently waiting to mention this point that you kind of sparked. And that is, I think this compilation is the proof that not everything needs to be a compilation. Like, I'm not 100% sure if a $40 MSRP for some compilation that maybe you only want 1 or 2 games of is the way to go. Like, Capcom literally has a free download a la carte, buy what you want, Arcade Stadium collection also on Switch. So being able to buy just Darkstalkers or just Puzzle Fighter or something like that at like $10 a pop or $8 or whatever, that I think probably both of us would be more willing to do than investing the full 40, Not to cut off where we were going with the other conversation, but I don't know when I would ever be able to make this point.
Yeah, like honestly, like if they just release like if they were all a la carte, I probably would. Well, I wouldn't hesitate to buy some of the Darkstalkers game, and I'd maybe check out 1 or 2 of the other ones just because like what's it called, Beast something.
There was Cyberbots, Full Metal Madness. There was nothing with Beasts.
There's something
Red Earth.
Red Earth. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's the one that's never been on a console before.
Yeah, there's a few that I'm like curious about, just like for the history of the fighting game anthology of Capcom. That was a horrible sentence. I'm just curious about some of them for the history. I don't need to get another Street Fighter 2 hyper. Like
right.
I think I've had but I don't know how many. I have like 4 Street Fighter 2s on my Switch. I don't need another one.
And what's funny is I guarantee Capcom is making it a $40 compilation. Well, one, they want more money, but two, because they know in their minds people won't buy Red Earth by itself because what the hell is Red Earth? Like, so to them this makes more sense, but I think they'd be surprised by how there is this audience, this like niche but big audience these days that people are just like wanting to try new things. I mean, Nintendo kind of tapped into it with the bizarre selection of Super Nintendo and NES games that they started putting on Switch Online and before they brought out N64, when they were doing all the weird games. Like, there is interest in this stuff to some degree. So even if you charge maybe $4 for your emulation of Red Earth instead of $8 for Puzzle Fighter or whatever, like, you'll get some pull off that. Like, I don't know. And then they would ultimately get more money because 10 games at $4 to $8 a pop, that's more than $40 total. So theoretically, that's probably a wash, actually, economically speaking. But yeah. So Capcom, just use your existing arcade stadium is all I'm saying. And then have an online space where friends can play, so we play these games beyond what we would normally, past their regular shelf life. That's how you bridge our two conversations right there. But yeah, was there anything you wanted to say about the online thing though, Angel? I sort of cut you off because I wanted to make my Capcom point before I forgot it.
No, you didn't cut off anything. You were fine.
Oh, I felt like I did. Well, okay. Conveniently, I guess, this does bring us to our next and final topic, which is also about retro games. Nintendo announced that in March of 2023, they will be shutting down the 3DS and Wii U eShops, which is notable because it's the first time since Nintendo entered the digital storefront space whatsoever that titles that were available at one point in time suddenly will not be. Like, even when they closed the Wii Shop channel and the DSi shop, those libraries lived on within the 3DS and Wii U eShops. This time, not so much. You'll be able to download previously purchased games on whatever given system. If you have them, you can re-download them, but you can't get anything new after March 2023. And that is a first in Nintendo history. They can stop physical production, but stuff is still in circulation. Here, that's it. It's gone. And that, of course, brings up all sorts of questions about accessibility to these games and preservation of these games. And when the news first broke, Nintendo actually had a section of their FAQ that directly addressed this concern. Like, literally, the question posed was, and actually, yeah, I'm just going to read it. The question was, many classic games for past platforms will cease to be available for purchase anywhere. Will you make classic games available to own some other way? Doesn't Nintendo, this is written by Nintendo, doesn't Nintendo have an obligation to preserve its classic games by continually making them available for purchase? So someone at Nintendo clearly thought about these concerns, but they were seemingly overruled because the answer that followed was essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, well, 130 games are on Switch Online and have new features. What more do you need? And then in a more direct quote, their answer where they basically said, we have Switch Online, be quiet, the final sentence of their answer was, we currently have no plans to offer classic content in other ways. And then, about 2 hours after that, that entire portion of their FAQ about the eShop closure was completely removed from the website and hasn't come back. So, yeah, it's not exactly an ideal situation that the games are kind of gone. Because, like, on one hand, Nintendo rightfully protects their IPs like no other and has been shutting down piracy and emulation and ROMs left and right. There's that story, what was it, like a month ago, about a guy fittingly named Gary Bowser who received a 3-year prison sentence for hacking the Switch to run emulators and ROMs and pirated material. So, like, on the one hand, Nintendo's going to not let people find other ways to distribute their stuff, but at the same time, they're pulling the rug out from under legitimate ways to access these games. And since this is the first full digital closure of a platform for Nintendo, it means, the first time that games will be completely inaccessible. They won't be in circulation at used game stores unless you look out with buying a used console that has it on it for some reason, like pre-installed. You won't be able to find them in a local library or some archive. It's just, Nintendo who has them and Nintendo who's keeping them away. And I'm sure some, like, let's be real, some are, of course, could come back in the form of, like, Switch Online perks or Mario 3D All-Stars, like, from the Nintendo Vault style releases. But a lot of the lesser games, I don't think we're ever going to see them again. And it's kind of a problem we've been circling with streaming and games as services and whatnot for a few years now. You know, we've talked about before as this eventuality to the way that not just games, but TV and movies too, like, you know, they're all moving digital. What's that mean when they decide to not have them anymore? But now, here in our little Nintendo bubble, it's actually happening in actuality. Here we are. Like, does it bother you guys at all? Like, in terms of how you play or access games? Like, are there going to be games that you're going to miss, so to speak? Like, where do you stand on this actually happening for real now?
I don't know. I think because this is a year out, I feel like I have all the time in the world to grab anything or re-download anything that I want before it's gone. Right. And to be clear, you'll be able to keep re-downloading. The server's staying online if you already purchased the game. Yeah. Oh, even less so. Then, yeah, because, I mean, I feel like I've already bought in everything I wanted. Yeah, I mean, as far as game preservation goes, yeah, that is a huge bummer. At least like game preservation in a legal sense, but yeah, that is a huge bummer. But I don't know. It feels weird to say, but like I don't see it as a big of a deal as others do. Yeah, I mean, it is annoying that Nintendo ultimately is gonna make us buy Super Mario Brothers again at some point down the road after the Switch is long done and stuff. And yeah, it's also not that great that the selection of games we do have right now on the Switch, due to the subscription service, are, you know, for all accounts, or by all accounts, just attached to subscription. Like, we don't own them the way we did any of the previous generation virtual console titles, which, yeah, that is also a bummer. I'm going to keep using that word now. Yeah, like, I don't know. I wish they would still keep supporting it, but, you know, at this point, yeah, you have a year. You have no excuse not to download what you want and preserve the games you want to keep. What if? You have the consoles. Well, what if you're a retro gamer in 3 years and you really need that copy of Kersploosh from the 3DS eShop? How do you get that at that point? That's the thing. Like, I'm not too concerned about us in this moment. I'm thinking, like, if we were to hypothetically switch teams, so to speak. I mean, for me, you guys already are multi-platform. So you're saying, like, I was like, I'm going to get a PlayStation. So let's go back to Little Timmy. Like, Little Timmy is Little Timmy. Yeah, long time round Nintendo mascot, Little Timmy.
Little Timmy did something with his hair. Does he look different to you guys?
He's going, like, you know how emo's coming back, like punk and that sort of thing? He's leaning in on When We Were Young Fest, but he doesn't understand why, and it just doesn't work for him. Yeah, so Little Timmy just got out of, I don't know, he just got out of school, or he's done with school, essentially. Like, he's graduated, has his first job, he's looking to get into collecting, and I guess he's like, you know what, I play some Nintendo games here and there, let me collect all the Nintendo games. So you're talking about this scenario, right? At some point they decided, you know what, I want to get a full collection of every game released on the Switch. Not even that. And by the way, Kevin, if you weren't already having a quarter life crisis, Little Timmy is now apparently graduating school, when at the time that this podcast started, he was in, like, kindergarten.
We need to calm down.
Oh, not even Little Tim anymore, you're right. He's just Tim.
He's just Tim. He's not even Timmy, he's just Tim. But
I don't think we can I don't think it's so much he's going to have to keep aging. In a few months he'll be Old Man Tim. Yeah. Old Timothy. But so I guess no, I don't think it's a collector thing. And now it's like, dang it, he can't download it. What's he gonna do?
Yeah, it's kind of that. Maybe not the collecting.
Accept that he can't get it.
Yeah, and that's what kind of sucks. It's like another way of looking at it is, let's say I'm jumping ship from Nintendo, want to check out Sony, and I've heard great things about Loco Roco back in the PSP days, right? And I like everything Sony's putting out now. I like their cinematic, slanted, first-party releases that are very big and glitzy and purdy and all that. But I kind of heard cool things about this now, I think, closing Japanese studio that made Loco Roco, and I want to try Loco Roco. If Sony were doing what Nintendo's doing, and surprisingly, the Vita store is still up and running 10 years strong, I guess because Vita means life.
To be fair, that was only because there was so much outrage that they were about to close the
That is true. That's a very good point. So Vita meant life to the fans as much as it did in definition. But yeah, I might want to check out Loco Roco, and if I can't, I can't just go to a pawn shop or use Game Store or whatever and like hunt it down. I now have to hunt down a PSP that has it pre-installed.
Wait, Loco Roco, shouldn't you be able to?
If it were digital only, I'm using a hypothetical. Yeah. Yeah, it's a bad example because it was on a UMD. Hook you up with one. yeah, because it's on UMD, I know. But it's the first thing I could think of that's kind of like niche but has a following. So I'm just thinking Chris Blush isn't the one that's going to move mountains, but there's going to be some, the Pushmo series, Crashmo, whatever. That one makes sense. Ketzel's Corners, yeah, there we go. Ketzel's Corners, yeah. But whatever it is, there's going to be some Box Boy, the early editions of Box Boy. Like, obviously you can play the later ones now on the Switch. But how you get the early one? Like you're going to hit this wall if you are a fan of something.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, as Pokemon continues to be as popular as it is, because that's not stopping. Tim at some point is gonna either forgot or he's gonna be reminded at some point that like, wait a minute, Game Freak made other games, and then he's gonna look up, the one about the
elephant.
Yeah, and then he's gonna remember like, oh, wait a minute, what's this Harmonite? I want to play this game. Oh, I can't.
Exactly. And Harmonite's interesting because
Adult
it also
Tim is sad.
It depressed Tim. Drinking heavily, Tim.
Receding hairline, Tim.
Receding hairline, Tim. But yeah, I was gonna say that. No, like Harmonite's a good example because not only is it a cool game in and of itself,
he has emo dyed haircut with a receding hairline.
Well, no. You see, we see him now with his emo haircut, but as he gets depressed about not being able to access Harmonite, which ironically is one of the most colorful, probably kitty-looking games Nintendo put on the 3DS, and I say that with respect. Yeah, his hairline's gonna recede hard. Yeah, that emo hair's just gonna disappear overnight from the stress.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's going to be a case study. It's like, it's not even genetic. It's just
no, it's strictly Nintendo's actions. Yeah. This is what we're dealing with here. That's what I'm saying. But no, I think Harmonite like is a good example because not only is it kind of an interesting game, but it also, if you're interested in like Pokemon and its history and Game Freak's history, James Turner, who's now the art director for a lot of the Pokemon games, including Sword and Shield, one of his first like things he cut his teeth on in terms of his own style was Harmonite. Like that was his art, that was his doing, and he's one of the few Game Freak people that have like a presence online and like a following and stuff. So if you're a fan of him and you want to check out his early work, you got to pirate it, which seems silly. So should you not buy it in the next year? But Ken, where do you stand on all this? Obviously, Angel and I have our feelings, but you haven't really chimed in.
I mean, I've always been the guy on this podcast to be like, Nintendo's insane that they just don't have like a directory of like, hey, you bought it on this console, now you own it on this other one. Like the fact that every console generation we are buying Super Mario Brothers all over again.
Yeah.
And stuff like this does lead to piracy, right?
100%.
That being said,
which they're also clamping down on.
Yeah. That being said, this was bound to happen. And the same way that it happened with the Vita, I'm sure the outrage will cause Nintendo to rethink how long it's going to take for them to shut it down. I mean, they already said a year. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets extended, maybe.
I feel like that has the lesson baked in, because wasn't Vita's shut down like 3 months warning or something, and now Nintendo's doing like a year plus?
Yeah, but I could see that maybe as a reaction to the Vita stuff.
Yeah, possibly.
And with that being said, I mean, this is bound to happen, and it will continue to happen, right? Game preservation is a tough subject to discuss, especially when it comes to people like Nintendo that are really, really heavy into, hey, our game, you can just no longer buy this game.
Right. Right.
But I mean, at this point, it's something that we have to get used to, unfortunately. The fact that, like, in our digital age.
Yeah. And it's going to be true in every format, every medium.
Yeah.
Music.
That being said, I hope that these developers, put out their games out for free so that you can get them on PC or something, or sell them on Steam if they can. Like if those devs' games are going to be lost in the eShop forever, Like, I would hope that they would probably put them up on like Steam or itch.io or some online marketplace.
Mm-hmm. The thing
which
I
is
find
expensive,
kind of funny,
but I mean that's the only way that I can think of these developers still getting paid for these without, somebody just going out of their way to pirate these games.
Yeah, and I think a good number of third-party ones have over the years made that transition. Like even stuff from the early days, like WiiWare exclusive World of Goo. That's on everything now. It's on phones. So like a lot of the like bigger ones have made the jump. The ones that have the potential to still reach an audience. So it's really the first-party stuff that seems like it's just gonna sort of be lost in the sands of time. But the thing I find funny is Nintendo seems to know there will now be a level of demand around these games. Like, we see it in how they're phasing out the eShop. First, they announced in February that they're going to do it. Then in May is when they cut off adding new funds to your account. And then way in March of next year is when they actually shut it down. So there is like a pacing here to give people time to access stuff between now and then, which, Angel, was kind of your original point. And I feel like, to some degree, they're turning this into a weird marketing opportunity. Like, in tandem with the announcement, they launched a neat little website that lets you see your top played games, genres, and time spent with both your 3DS and your Wii U. And of course, all that data comes in ready to share images for social media, so folks can highlight what they played and generate some like light word of mouth around these older titles and systems. Like, it kind of feels like a mini version of the scarcity tactic they use to drive sales of Mario 3D All-Stars. Like, it's clever, if it wasn't also a bummer. But it is kind of a clever way to like get a little extra push of money at the very end. So with that in mind, since Nintendo is giving that opportunity to go back and grab some 3DS or Wii U games that may have been missed, it feels like now's the moment to share some recommendations for everyone out there. Like, we've been around the eShop block more than a few times. I think this podcast literally launched 6 months after the first eShop debuted on the 3DS. So we've seen it. Stop. So my point is, we've seen it all. And in that all, there's been some cool experiences. So I don't know, dude, should we just round robin this and just each of us picked a couple games that you could still get right now on 3DS or Wii U eShop, but only on those eShops?
Yeah, I'll start off.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I don't have any games because I did barely played my 3DS and did not have a Wii U, so I will defer to you guys.
Well, what a great start. What a wonderful round robin this has been. Angel, I think I know one of your picks, Angel, but why don't you go first and let's see if
I already name dropped a few. Definitely Harmonite. That's an amazing one.
Yeah, that was one of mine.
Fun little game that I definitely recommend. Even Kessel's Corridors. That one's fun for a little while. Probably not worth however much I paid for it. Maybe cut that by 75%. Yeah.
Wasn't it only like $7 to begin with?
Yeah.
Ketzel's?
No, I think Ketzel's was maybe a little more. I don't know why. I hope I'm wrong. It might have been $8, but like $7.99. But I feel like $5 is perfect. Yeah, $5. Besides that, anything by the. Actually, this isn't just eShop anymore. I think it used to be, but. The Renegade Kid stuff, that was pretty good. Be it the Moon or Dementium or the Mutant Mudds games, which is probably more at home on the 3DS. But, yeah, and I obviously have to mention Rhythm Heaven Megamix. That one is...
Of course.
Like, that one is probably one of the bigger games you could get on the 3DS from Nintendo that I feel is, like, just so much value in that one game. Because it's pretty much 3 games in one plus more. Like, you get almost all the games from Rhythm Heaven Wii, DS, and Game Boy Advance. Plus, like, 80 more on top of that or some ridiculous number. On top of, like, side games, multiplayer, collectibles, lore, infinite minigames. Like, there's so much in there. And, besides that, damn, there was another one that I had on my tip of my tongue. Oh, at least right now, they're only available on the eShop, I think. But Ace Attorney 5 and 6, I don't think they're available on mobile yet. All the other ones are, actually, I don't think Ace Attorney Apollo Justice, so 4 isn't available anywhere else either. So, yeah, definitely those. They're eventually going to come to iPads and such. It's a matter of time. I'm sure it's a contract thing because it seems like Capcom is more than happy to throw Phoenix right everywhere it possibly can, but
I mean, that's just Capcom in general. As we were discussing with the Fighting Collection, they just love re-releasing things.
So if anything, I'm sure they'll probably come to the Switch at some point, which, would make them feel nice at home next to the great Ace Attorney. Although, I feel like at this point they deserve a physical release. And honestly, at this point, just give us like a 5 and 6 physical game. I'll buy that. I mean, single player game, whatever. But yeah, Ace Attorney and the push modes are also great. But yeah, I'm sure pretty much all of them.
Yeah, no, they're all, and you can get, I think, a physical version of Crash Mo World on the Wii U still. But yeah, the early push modes are only digital, so I agree with that. Yeah. If you go even further back, because the DSiWare was, available on the 3DS too.
Oh yeah, the Shantae's, but that's already available everywhere.
That's true. I was gonna say the art style games, which are these little puzzle games, and then there's a lot of interesting little puzzle games. Like there's the art style games. There's one called Pictobits. Which is like a color matching thing. It's not a puzzle game at all, but there's one from Q Games, from the guy that did Dylan Kuetberg, who did the original Star Fox, called Xscape.
Oh yeah, Dylan's Rolling Western. I forgot about that game.
Oh yeah, Dylan's Rolling Western. That's a good one. I can never play it because they didn't have a left-handed mode, which was dumb because it's stylus driven, and Miyamoto's left-handed. But yeah, I know Elvis loves those. Yeah. But Xscape is one I recommend checking out. It doesn't work great. Like it's not the best playing game. You are in first person in these kind of like vector graphic, like Tron aesthetic, big colored blocked worlds, and you're in first person tank and you're like doing missions and stuff and use the stylus to steer. And it's a little janky, but it's a sequel to, I think, a Virtual Boy game or something, or whatever, or no, an early Game Boy game. But either way, called X. But either way, like it's kind of this weird little slice of like Star Fox adjacent Nintendo history. But the ones I really want to highlight, and again, they're not necessarily the best games, but we're not going to see much like this. The photo-based games. Like, you may remember for a minute there, like, Nintendo tried to do stuff with cameras. The DSi had one, the 3DS had multiple for the 3D photos, and early in both of those systems' lives, Nintendo really tried to make games around those camera systems. And like I said, they weren't the best games. They weren't the longest games. They weren't the deepest games, but they were unique. That's for sure. They were unique. And if there's one thing that Nintendo, I don't think, is going to go back to in, the Switch and post-Switch world, I think there's two things they're not going to go back to. One is they're never going to do Rusty's Real Deal Baseball again. Like that whole system of haggling actual real-life money for purchases in-game and you determining the price of the microtransaction. That's not going to be a thing that's not going to happen again. But there's a second thing they're not going to do again. I don't think it's going to be cameras for core gameplay. And I think Face Raiders, which is bundled with the 3DS, is probably the best known example of their camera gameplay stuff, and it was a pretty cool early example of like AR experimentation that was way ahead of its time. But there are maybe three other like prime examples if you want to experience like this.
I forgot about that.
Badge Arcade.
So many Rhythm Heaven pins and all the Pokemon words. No.
Although that's not even really a game as much as it's just like
it's an app, but it was a game. The claw machine was a game, but yeah.
Fair. But yeah, no, I was going to say, if you want to do the camera, like if you want to experience this piece of Nintendo history where they tried to do stuff with cameras beyond just Face Raiders, there are three examples I would recommend checking out. And they're all relatively cheap because they're all relatively shallow. So first on DSiWare was WarioWare Snapped. It was a launch title. It's probably the most forgotten about WarioWare. It's much smaller than the other WarioWare. It's like $5 and has only 4 of the cast members with their own sets of mini games versus 8, 10, whatever. But all those mini games, you line up your face and hands with a silhouette on the screen, and then physically move around to complete the mini games. And because it's WarioWare, the game then embarrasses you with a slideshow of how goofy you look after you do that set of mini games. So it's like such a weird little piece of Nintendo history. And if you want real maximum embarrassment, there's another one called Photo Dojo, which was also from, I believe, DSiWare. That's the pinnacle of it, because you're actually making fighters out of you and your friends by taking, I think it's about a dozen or so photos per fighter, including taunts, if I remember correctly, and then you record sound bites of all your things you say, like your grunts, your dialogue, your victory, your loss, whatever. And then you pit these silly-looking photo fighters against one another, with the backdrop being what else? Another photo you've taken of an environment, a room, or whatever. But what's kind of neat is that like it is simplistic and it is really bare bones, but it does have different fighter styles and abilities. So it's kind of like if you have a couple friends over or whatever and just want to set up your 3DS or your DSi and just sort of prop it up. Like it is kind of a fun little lighthearted group experience for at least a few minutes, and it's priced appropriately for that. Don't try and do single player. Single player is a joke. You fight 100 enemies and that's it. Like that's literally it. It's not made for that. It's basically a tech demo. But it's this little piece of Nintendo history that like is going to be lost in the annals of time here. The third game I was going to mention is probably the most elaborate of the photo games. And it took a generational leap to the 3DS to happen. And that is Chibi Robo Photo Finder, which we actually talked about way back in like episode, somewhere in the double-digit episodes, like 50 or 60 or something. And weirdly, even though this game uses the camera, it is kind of more true to like core Chibi Robo gameplay than most of the other later entries in the franchise. But its big hook is that instead of going around a virtual world finding objects to make people happy, you're instead given silhouettes and need to find something that matches those shapes in real life. You then snap the photo with your 3DS. It's mapped onto the 3D object in the game, which it got kind of wacky because obviously you didn't need to do the item they had envisioned, so people would do weird stuff, but also like the camera didn't, like the silhouettes didn't line up super well. It was a little finicky, so it's kind of janky at times, but the whole object hunt thing is kind of interesting, and it's cool how they kind of baked it into a normal Chibi Robo experience, like quirky characters and mini games and whatnot. It's not the strongest entry, but again, it's all those things like this is not going to be recreated on any other Nintendo system ever. So like if you really want sort of like a unique slice of Nintendo history like this and Photo Dojo and WarioWare Snapped are probably like three good examples of something that will get lost in time. But if you want quality stuff, everything you said, Angel, I think pretty much hits the nail on the head. So those are some recommendations for you guys to throw money at. So yeah, I think we'll leave you all with that. Some oldies but goodies but weirdies to go download on your, now retro 3DS and Wii U. One final twist of the knife there, Kevin. The 3DS and Wii U are now retro systems. But yeah, meanwhile, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with our next episode, back in its usual Sunday release day, March 13th for that one, which is actually the start of Daylight Savings Time when I looked it up. So theoretically, this episode's going to be an hour early, kind of, because
do we lose or do
clocks.
We gate an hour?
We jump ahead.
So we lose an hour?
Yes.
Wait, when is this happening?
So March 13th, when our next episode goes live.
Oh my god. Where's the time going?
Didn't we vote so that this would be the last time to do that? Or what
I don't know when it's supposed to end, but we did say we wanted it to end, and then the government's like, cool, and proceeded not to do anything with that information.
Sweet. You know what I never understood? Time zones.
I get them to a certain point.
Yeah.
Like, there has to, why not just
like Japan
a universal
and here.
Time? Why not just a universal time, right?
Because then some people are stuck in night, being awake in dead of night.
No. They'd be awake whenever day is. They would just start their day, say at 6 p.m. That's just...
Yeah.
Well, that's not day anymore. That's night. Because the sun will be down.
Who cares?
It would all be based around the United States or whatever time.
Yes, there we go.
America,
that's the
go,
spirit.
Baby.
There we go.
You forget that. I mean, it's no different than I don't know. Maybe the days of the week. I mean, at some point, everyone decided that it's just going to be Monday through Friday, right? No one decided Monday through Sunday.
Well, I mean,
who cares if you're working
what you
6
label
hours,
But what you label the solar cycle of a given time versus being told you don't get a solar cycle, you live on a lunar cycle because you're in night mode, essentially. Because the U.S. is the one that gets the daylight.
You wouldn't be
that seems
in night mode.
You would be. We can't move where the sun. We can't change how the sun.
No, we're just changing what time they read. They can still do everything they want when the sun is out. They would just have. If it's 6 o'clock here...
I thought you meant literally being...
Their sun would be out to what is our equivalent of 6 p.m. So or midnight. So, while it's our midnight, it's also 12 o'clock over there, or I guess across the seas it would be what?
How's that work when there's more...
would be
how's that work
day?
when you can be more than 24 hours ahead?
Just in the episode. I'm done with this.
Because there's some time zones I think are Australia's more than a day ahead of us, isn't it? Is that possible? Am I making something up? Is that possible?
I don't think isn't technically everyone at the same time as us, just because.
Right. No, but I mean,
we all exist at the same time, right? They're not technically. Yeah. They're technically not ahead of us.
No. But
they're
what
not
I mean
older
is,
over there.
No, no. What I mean is like if you're saying, okay, well, 1 a.m. is lunchtime for one group of people, and 12 p.m. is lunchtime for us. I think there's not enough hours to account for all the different time zones. So someone's going to be eating at like we have to make like a 13 p.m. or something.
No. They would still be eating at the time. I think you're misunderstanding what we're saying.
Yeah, you keep trying to fit everything. Like everyone is still going to have their 24-hour cycle. It just starts at different times, whatever time makes sense for them.
Like the sunrise would start at like it would be 8 p.m. for us, but like in some other time of the world, the sunrise would be at 8 p.m. and they start their day at 8 p.m.
So literally time zones.
Did I not start this by saying, you know what I never understood? Time zones.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you're describing time zones that just are labeled slightly different. Yeah, let's wrap this before we go too far down this rabbit hole. It's too late. I think everyone's tuned out. But if you're still here listening,
I mean, wouldn't it be so much easier if people could just tell me, just call me at 8 p.m. or just call me at 7 p.m. and just know that they actually mean that, not like.
But that doesn't. That's what I'm saying. That doesn't work.
Call at 9 p.m.
I don't think that works because I think
you're ahead by 6 hours or.
I mean, sure, when they're awake, they might still say, call me at 3 a.m. and I'll be like, oh, that's inconvenient, but that's just what works for them. Then that's fine.
Are there more than 24 hour? Like, what's the farthest time zone from us?
13.
Is it in either direction?
I think like a full day, when you consider time zones, I think is like 36 hours.
Okay, so how would that work? That's my point. So if you say call me at 3 a.m., but they're at the other end of 36 hours.
Time. We just go with a universal time frame. Everybody's on the same day. Starting,
but the poor dude,
January 1st, 2023.
But the poor dude who's at hour 25, what does he call it?
It doesn't matter what he calls it because he is going to live under this new time frame,
right?
On January 1st, 2023.
It just erases everything.
When it becomes
I guess all I'm saying is, guys, we need to come up with names after 12 p.m. and 12 a.m. It can't just go from 12 to 12. It has to be
it absolutely can.
No, it can't because someone's like cycled through a few times. If I say call me at 3 a.m., is it their 3 a.m. or is it their 3 a.m. too?
Yes, exactly. It would be if you say
no, not two as in TWO, two as in also.
Yes, exactly. So instead of like expecting a call from like Mexico's ahead of us by what, 2 hours?
Yeah.
Or are they behind?
They're ahead.
They're ahead. So, like, if somebody over there says, like, I will call you at 9 p.m. Over here in America, I'm thinking, okay, so that means that I'm going to get a call at 6 p.m., right? No, how about we just equalize it the entire way? So when she says, I'm going to call you at 9 p.m., I, myself, here in America, think, okay, she's going to call at 9 p.m.
Yeah. So we have to...
It would technically be her 12 p.m., but
it's just 9 p.m. both sides. Yeah.
So it's
So the time zone range goes from -12 to +14. So all I'm saying is in order for this to work, we need to make additional hours up.
No,
because if I say 9 p.m., it doesn't. There's not enough times that we can all like line up our 9 p.m.s because it exceeds.
We're not trying to line up like our 9 p.m.s to land on the exact same time.
Yeah, exactly. We're not.
No. You're missing what I'm saying. There's more.
Wait, this is still being recorded, huh?
It is.
I forgot we were still on the Nintendo podcast. This has turned into
This is how you transition into an Arnon episode, I guess. No,
anyway,
I guess what I'm saying
we gotta hash this out. All right, go.
All I'm saying, and this will be the last thought, and then we'll wrap up. And if anyone's still listening, props to you, you mad person. All I'm saying is, if there is a time zone range, if there's a time zone range, if there's a time zone range from -12 to +14, that is more than 24 hours, which means if you want a universal time, you have to accommodate for those people who are beyond
No, you don't. No, you
the
don't.
24
So
choices.
whoever is plus 12 right now, right? Who's ever plus 12 right now, the next 12 hours do not exist. It stays at 10 p.m. It stays.
Problem solved. Okay.
They just stop,
and we'll call it
the clocks until
and we'll call
until we synchronize. Right?
Yeah, and clearly it's going to be called Merca time.
I don't want to change the clock twice a year. You know what? We're going to make people stop their clocks for 2 hours every day or X amount of hours.
Let's get out of here.
And it'll be called Merca time. It's Merca time. And you know what? Why don't we put it? We'll put it in Spain. It could be their siesta period where they're napping anyway, and they won't know the difference.
I guess it essentially would have to be. What'd you say? Plus 12 and minus 14. We would have to wait at whoever's minus 14.
Yeah. So, but we can tilt that. That's all based on Greenwich Mean Time. That's based on Britain being the center of everything from the old empire. So if we pivot it to make it so siesta time in Spain can just be imaginary time that doesn't exist, problem solved. Because they take like a 2-hour siesta every day, right? And that's the difference we need, 2 hours. And then Pokemon can be based there. And in Pokemon, Scarlet and Violet, it can be what introduces the system to the world because it is based in a Spanish region. It's perfect. It all comes together. We figured it out.
Well, we're gonna hash this out in a later episode. I'm not done with this.
Yeah, I feel like I still feel like you didn't completely understand what we're saying. Otherwise,
no, I get what you're saying. You're saying you can just have a universal time. So when you tell someone 9 p.m., it doesn't matter where the sun is. 9 p.m. is constantly 9 p.m. What I'm saying is there's not enough hours in
the entire world.
Then what's the problem? Like, why do
there's not enough hours?
But there aren't places that have more than 24 hours in a given day.
Yeah, they're all 24 hours.
No, there aren't, but there are more time. The time zone range is bigger. So if you tell someone 9 p.m. and you want to be the same for you and them, it's impossible.
That's not what we're not trying to make Mexico's 9 p.m.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you're saying, hey, call me at 9 p.m., there's going to be a window of time for a specific time zone.
Okay.
Where there are no names for the hours.
Jason, brand new universal time.
Look, Jason, listen. Are you listening? Listen.
Yes.
Okay. It's 10 p.m. right now, right? It's 10 p.m. right now, right?
Yes.
10:02. Well, I guess as of this recording, I don't know what time it is.
Yes. It's 10 p.m. for everyone, according to our theory here.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter what time of the world it is right now. It's 10 p.m.
Okay. Except.
Yeah, exactly. No. You wait. What? Now you're going to wait. Okay. So right now in New York, it is 1:02 a.m. Most of New York probably sleeping right?
Bam.
I'll pause it.
Yes, bam. New York,
okay.
It's 10 p.m.
It's a siesta theory. Yeah.
Japan, what time is it over there right now?
It doesn't matter because it is 10 p.m. over there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's 10 p.m. over there right now. So when they wake up like 6... Let's pretend that they're in the middle of their sleep.
Or 2200.
When they wake up like 5 hours from now, like, it's just whatever. It's just 5 hours from now. So it'd be like 3 a.m. when they're going to be going to work. It's inconvenient for them, sure. But, at least for us, we don't have to worry about what time it is anywhere else because it's just that time.
And ultimately, it is America.
For us. It's like...
I mean, in theory,
ultimately it is America that's the center of the world. So it makes sense.
This still means that, yes, like, if I actually try to reach out to a business elsewhere, they're obviously still going to like follow the circadian rhythm. They're going to be working during the day and going to sleep during the night. Their time isn't going to make any sense. Their time isn't going to make sense, but it makes it easy for us, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
So the point is, if you're listening at home and you want to know when our next episode is, it's March 13th, California time, which is now the time. So that's when you check. Yes. And if you have thoughts on this time zone system or any of the topics of this episode, feel free to tweet us at Random Nintendo and tell us how crazy we are. You can also comment
if we ever do go to Japan, I'm going to tell you, anytime you ask me for the time, I'm going to tell it all to you in California time. And you're going to see it.
Yeah.
And you're going to see how much you...
Works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much better. Yeah.
I mean, it will be better if I was in California, but in Japan...
Well, you would be in California.
Yeah, you're going to be like... Hey, let's go to Universal.
Yes.
Let's go to Universal for Nintendo World. At what time do we have to be there? Oh, we have to be there at 2 a.m. And that will make sense to you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It would only be 2 or 3 hours away from when we're in Japan, but you'd understand. You'd get it. You get it.
if you, listener, wish to hear more of these brilliant ideas from the three of us, you can follow us individually on Twitter. I am JSR7, the voice of reason, I like to think. Angel is Wero, WEIRO_O. Kevin is KVN Gomi. You can also subscribe to us if you want more banter like this.
With that voice of reason crap.
What? Oh, I'm just going to plow through. Nope. Missed the boat there. You can subscribe to us on all the podcast apps. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio. YouTube channel is Roundtable.com. This was the most chaotic ending we've ever had to a podcast, and I loved every second of it. Kevin, I may have snuck in my con about being the voice, the sane one, but you have final words, so.
Universal time zones.